Is that too loud?
With that, we do have a couple of
Yeah,
special
it is a
guests, and
little
the
dark.
point of this discussion today
Oh,
is to
thank
give
you.
everybody a heads up on the requirements and the deadlines that are coming to comply with the national opioid settlement. We have Rusty Gackle from the Department of Justice, Mr. Rosbach on with us. I saw him come across the screen
Join the meeting.
here. I'm going to do a brief intro and then kick it over to Dan, and we'll have some time for question and answers. But the part that I want to get across to the members is that the onus is going to be on local governments to comply with what are really two different processes from this point on. One is to get yourself registered for the 15% direct allocation, of which you should have received an email that gives you the instructions to go online and register through that portal. That is a legitimate email from a legitimate source that's asking for legitimate information like designated persons and bank accounts. Don't think of that as spam, and it is a legitimate email and part of the process. Almost separate and distinct from how we're going to set up through the Memorandum of Understanding, Master Settlement
Join the meeting.
negotiations with DOJ, how we're going to set up collectively the Trust Advisory Committee. And I think that's the more confusing process because it deals with whether you're designated as a metro county or a multi-jurisdictional region. And I know that there's some confusion, and I'm here to say that we will help on behalf of the Montana Association of Counties to try and help you guys prepare some template documents, interlocal agreements, MOUs to get everything set up and ready. But we need to start that process like now. With that, I'll turn it over to either Rusty or Mr. Rosbach. I don't know which one of you wanted to get started first, but the floor is yours.
All right, I'll go ahead and get started. I appreciate it, Eric. It was good to actually have a chance to talk to you. Bill, I just wanted to make sure, are you on it? I just want to make sure you can hear us and be able to kind of assist me a little bit in some of the questions. Are you, Bill, are you available? I saw him earlier, so I just was checking. Yeah, I see him there. Can you hear me, Bill? Oh, whatever. I'll continue without him. I see him on. If he happens to get available and can answer any questions, that'd be great. So, one, I really appreciate everybody. I appreciate the opportunity kind of to be able to address everybody really quick and just kind of say, as we kind of go through this process, a little bit of getting this opioid settlement and doing what we can to expedite these funds, get it distributed to your individual counties, cities, and at the local.
Carl Field said.
And
Join the meeting.
I just kind of wanted to take the opportunity really quick to kind of, I guess, kind of get the ball rolling. We'd sent out some, we've had continued communication, I guess, previously as well. But as we kind of get a little bit closer and closer to know that the settlement has getting closer to distributing funds to Montana, we want to make sure that everybody is kind of getting up to date on what they need. You know, and I know it's kind of a confusing process, and we're going to try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. And but we just kind of want to expedite the process a little bit for you guys. And I know the confusing process, like Eric kind of had stated, we need each abatement region or abatement, whether it's a metro or a multi-county. And just so everybody, I hope everybody's really kind of has a general idea of what this looks like, but I'll kind of just give a quick 30,000 foot overview. Is there's 5 different multi-county abatement regions, and then there's obviously 9 metro regions. And so inside each abatement, so a multi-county abatement region, let's say just abatement region 1, which is out east. Those counties need to communicate together and decide what their governance structure they want that to look like. I mean, who do they want to be their point of contact? Who do they want to be their reference? So that they can submit their, funds or their desires or the programs that they want to fund from that region into the advisory council or up to the advisory council. We kind of been we're allowing the counties and the local level to decide what governance structure they want that to look like. And we're here, I guess we kind of we're in the onus that's what the way our MOU was written is we want the local level wanted to actually kind of have that can everybody hear me? I guess I just saw Diane McLean said she can't hear it. I don't know if that's okay. We're good. Thanks, Eric. So with that, I don't want everybody to feel like, okay, you're on your own. If you need assistance from us, we will, we have representation. We will obviously try to help and facilitate that. Eric said he's he's willing to help with those, which I think would great, and we can work together with them. But I don't want anybody to feel like we're not willing to help. We just are trying to say, hey, if you guys have something already, if you have something that you already have in that area, or you already have a, whether it's a health board in that area that you guys can, assign to be your representation, then that's perfectly fine. But just big picture, like I said, those multi-county abatement regions need to decide what their governance is. Obviously, the metro regions need to decide, choose who their governance or what their representation is, and just let the advisory council, or as I am the interim executive director to get this thing off the ground, let me know that your structure is in place. We had sent out in that letter that, December 1st, and for you guys, that was primarily if we just need to get the ball rolling. We're not missing anything yet. We haven't had any distributions. The money's not quite here. They're rolling this thing out in tranches. They keep telling us that we're getting closer and closer to getting to us. So that's kind of where we're at. And so we just kind of wanted to make sure the ball is rolling. Inside, just so everybody else, does understand too, the 5 abatement regions, once you guys have your representation and your governance kind of put together, you're going to have you're going to be able to appoint 2 representatives to the advisory council. And so once those are set, you need to decide, okay, who do we want to, and have communication of who do we want to get appointed to the advisory council. The metro regions, inside the 9 that they have, they will have 3 on the board of the advisory council. So it's kind of the same process, just a little bit different structure, whether you're in a multi-campus, whether you're in a metro region. That's kind of the really, 30,000 foot overview level, kind of where we're at. And those would be the 2 key things, and Eric touched on those. And those are really the kind
J.B. Moody, Sweetgrass County.
we're trying
Join the meeting.
get accomplished right now, is just making sure that the abatement regions are being able to put forth, hey, this is our choice for our governance structure. We're not going to tell you, hey, what you have to do or what you should use or what that should really look like. But if you need some help to put that together, or you want us to assist you, or you want the trust to assist you in some way, we can do that. So the question from Pete was, do the metro regions combine for 3 reps each, or is it, there's 3 total. So the 9 metro regions would have to decide who they're, because the advisory council is made up of 10 members. And this is all in the MOU. Hopefully everybody.
You need to cut to the chase about how it works. It's rambling on.
And to see that more than likely you probably and there's a law enforcement component in there, as well as possibly DPHHS and some other stuff like that. Or not DPHHS, sorry, but the Attorney General gets appointed 3. Then DPHHS gets to appoint 2 to that board, so that makes up 5. Multiple counties get to appoint 2, and then the metro regions appoint 3, so that makes for the ED is an 11th kind of tiebreaker vote when it comes to anything like that. So, the Attorney General is very important. We just want to do what we can to help facilitate, get these funds down to the local level and involved at your level as much as possible. As the programs come forth, they go through the abatement regions and make it to the advisory council. Really what we're looking at is these funds just have to be used, and I kind of say used for abatement, opioid abatement. There's this box that everything has to fit into. And then we will roll funds out, as long as they're approved, as long as they fit for that. And then they go out and will get distributed through the advisory council back through your abatement regions for your programs that you're looking at to work on. So that's kind of the, stage of where we're at right now. Like I said, the most important part is we just want to kind of get these different abatement regions and understanding of that we need a governance structure based on the MOU that everybody has signed to put together to just give us an idea of, okay, who is that point of contact and what's that abatement region's governance structure. And then once you guys have those in place, you can choose and get together and help communication of who you're going to be appointing to this advisory council, so that once we have that, we can have our first meeting and move forward.
Hey, Rusty, before we transition over to Bill for whatever part of his presentation, I've received some phone calls recently in the past couple of days that some counties have seen the spreadsheet distribution, and they're not concerned that it's not worth the time or effort, but there's some question about whether it's worth the time and effort. Can you talk about this being the format for future settlement funds being distributed through, and that it absolutely is worth their time and effort to get both registered on the 15% and participate on the 70%?
Yeah, and I understand that. I mean, you know, there's a lot of these metro areas, let's be honest, serve a lot of these other counties, right? I mean, I know it happens. I live in Yellowstone County, and no Billings service area is a much larger area. But, you know, this is the first round, and Bill can probably speak to this even a little bit better than I can. But I would go as far as, I get it, but this is real money, and this is kind of the first settlement that we're going to experience. I mean, I don't know if anybody's been aware, but, you know, Walmart's in a position right now where they're looking at settling on a very similar kind of, on these opioid settlements. We have, you know, a handful of other CVS, Walgreens, and not to get into details, but, and I don't want to speculate and give out another, you know, I guess number to say this is what our expectations are, but I mean, it's gonna at least another 50%, maybe. I mean, maybe not at least, but you know, 30 to another $40 million. I bet with what we would see through the state for future settlements that are coming. I mean, there's going to be more of these, and we've started conversations, and a lot of these have actually been in conversations, and so they're coming. So. You know, for different regions, you're going to get affected differently, but more importantly, you're going to get funded, yes, a little bit differently. I understand that, but this was the MOU that was kind of put together and negotiated on, and how we were going to handle this. And I think it's going to be a little bit clunky to start with, but that's just because we're going to have to learn this as we go. I mean, I've had lots of conversations with Texas and Colorado. A lot of different states, and nobody's really actually had an opportunity to distribute anything yet. They're in the process of, okay, what is this really going to look like, and how does this work? But, you know, I understand looking at I mean, I'm from Macomb County. I looked at the, you know, 15% that went to Macomb County in the very first one. So I was like, oh, what are they going to do with that whopper of a check? But it'll add up. I promise you that. And, you know, obviously as we work with, you know, inside of your abatement region to say, what's the most effective for what we can do for our, you know, because you're affected by your neighboring counties as well. And we all know that. It's not a localized, it doesn't just happen in one place and not the other. I mean, this is something that's felt across the state of Montana. So hopefully that answers a little bit, Eric. All right. With that, Bill, can you hear me, or are you able to? Okay.
I don't know. I was having trouble with my sound before, but can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you go ahead?
Yeah, I didn't hear Eric. I was having trouble getting my sound working. Yesterday I didn't get my video either. Just a couple of things. I think Rusty pretty well set forth the governance idea. You know, we just didn't, over the year that we spent working on developing the MOU, both within the AG's office and outside with some of the litigating counties and cities who in some ways were the most important people to get involved, because by getting all 100% of all of the counties and all of the 6 largest cities, we got basically a $20 million bonus. And so the fact that all of you had signed on to this gives the state of Montana, instead of 60 million, about 80 million. And that's just the start. As Rusty said, just this week, I got a letter similar to the letter that I sent out to you a week or so ago, talking about governance and talking about opening your payment portal, things like that. The Janssen money, that letter was concerned with only the distributor's money. The Janssen money will be coming fairly soon. There will be, and you will get, I will send another letter with further instructions if Janssen is any different. But we also got this week a 300-page document that is essentially identical to the distributors and Janssen settlements, which is going to be for about $3 billion, of which the state of Montana gets like 4%. Maybe not that much, 0.4%, but 0.4% of $3 billion is pretty much real money. We will be, there's also going to be coming next, as Rusty said, a CVS settlement. There's going to be 3 bankruptcies. There's Endo, Purdue, who started all of this with OxyContin, and the Sackler family, and then Mallinckrodt. And all of these are, you know, moving right along. So the idea here, even though it's slow going, and I know there's a lot of questions, creating this governance hopefully will be a permanent system for distributing money along the same lines. Once you get your portals open, once you get your fiscal agent, once you get your payment instructions, wire instructions to the National Settlement Administration, there's going to be money coming off and on for 15 or 20 years. And as some of them are pretty small, granted, but when you add it all up, and I think Rusty's estimate is pretty good. We're going to be getting, I think, somewhere between $100 and $150 million ultimately from these settlements to take care of the problems in your local areas. And that was the goal we all had, was, you know, the situation in Yellowstone County and the situation in Golden Valley County is probably considered very different. And so we wanted to basically allow large and small counties to find their own governance solutions. One of the things that I want to make clear is, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, of course, but let's say there's like 10 counties in multi-county abatement region 1. There's gonna, if you in those 10 counties or 12 counties, I can't remember exactly, basically are going to, will pool all of their money. And so there will be an allocation for, you know, for you know, the different counties out there, and they can pool them together. And when you pool 5 or 10 small counties together, it starts to become real money. The other thing then is that you in multi-counties may decide, look, we don't need to have a opioid nurse or an opioid treatment qualified person in every one of our counties. Maybe we ought to put it, for example, in Culbertson, where there's already a regional hospital. And so those 10 or 11 counties can get together and say, well, we're going to put our opioid infrastructure in, you know, Circle or, you know, Malta, whatever works for your region. The regions that we created, the abatement regions follow, if those of you who are involved in public health, follow the DPHHS public health regions. We decided that rather than trying to reinvent new abatement regions, we would use the existing DPHHS regions. So, you know, I'm not sure what else I need to say at this point. I think Rusty covered it pretty much. You know, there's not a huge, we put the December 1st deadline on to basically get the ball rolling. I think that there may be, I think with the metro regions where there's only one county, it may be easier to start developing a governance there. But every county has a health department. Every county has, the large counties have, with large cities, have city-county health boards, which combine the resources of the large city and the county. So, you know, it's just a matter of getting down and doing your own Zooms and getting going. I'm available to answer questions. I mean, with 200 county commissioners and county attorneys, I may not be able to answer them all at once. But if there's a consistent set of questions, you know, we may be sending out additional information. The one thing that I think Eric or somebody brought up, I was having trouble hearing at first. We've sent this out several times, but there is a document that was attached to the MOU. It's, I think it's exhibit B to the MOU, and it's basically an allocation number for every single county and the 6 largest cities. That allocation number was decided nationally by the multi-state attorney general committee that was negotiating with the distributors and Janssen, and has now been negotiating with CVS, Walgreens, Walmart. That allocation number is a number that is, I mean, I was involved in that. OCP, Office of Consumer Protection at the Attorney General's office was involved in that, having input. That is a number that basically, there is a number for all, whatever, 15,000 counties and cities in the United States. And that number is based upon a opioid impact methodology. And it involves population, it involves the number of opioid pills that are getting distributed in those counties and cities, the number of opioid deaths, the number of hospitalizations for opioid overdoses, the number of diagnosed problems of opioid abuse disorder. Those things are all combined into a model, basically, that was used to then come up with a number, an allocation number. That number will, unless things radically change, will be your number for the entire duration and all of the different settlements. That is a number that was people spent 3 years coming to that number for all of the thousands of counties and cities who are qualified to receive funds. And that will be your number. It's, you know, I think it's been sent to you several times. It was part of the MOU. I think I sent it again recently in I think the November 8th letter. If people don't have, and I know there's a lot of paperwork that comes into the commissioners, and I'm perfectly happy. I mean, maybe we should, first of all, the Montana MOU is available on the National Settlement Administration website. You can, if you don't have a copy of it, or if you've misplaced your copy, you can go online there and download the MOU and the amendment to the MOU, which is going to be controlling basically how these funds are managed and distributed. Rusty said one other thing that I want to really emphasize. The money is to be used, the only constraint that the state of Montana is going to put on you in using this money is that it has to be for opioid abatement. Now, if you look, you also received the 600 pages of settlement documents from Janssen and the distributors, and in those documents, you will, there is like, I don't remember the exhibit number, but there is an exhibit there that's like 12 pages of authorized opioid abatement. We supplemented that in the MOU. There's also a series of pages about additional, clarification about what you can use the money for. And it's very broad, and essentially anything that you need in the future to deal with this, you know, if it's funding opioid antidote for your ambulances, that's fine. If it's putting opioid antidote into your highway patrolmen in your regions, those are all things we can use. Tim Fox, who was the Attorney General when these settlements started developing, he made sure that when we put into the MOU, we put in the idea that it can be used for drug courts, things like that are opioid related. So it's not just treatment of opioid, it's, you can use it for education, you can use it for surveys and studies in your community to evaluate the problem. You can use it for hiring a health nurse that's going to staff an opioid clinic. I mean, it's really broad. You can use it however you think within your local region would be best. And I guess that's kind of the overview from my point of view. Rusty, is there anything else you want me to throw in on this?
No, I think we're good. I mean, I think we can, Eric, if there's any questions, I guess you want us to answer. I'm obviously kind of looking through, and I think you're catching most of them for the most part, but I don't see anything that we're missing directly. The only thing I would stress, like what Bill has already mentioned, is, the box is pretty broad that this fits into, but here's the important part: is we need to make sure it fits in the box, and that's going to be part of the advisory council and your abatement region's responsibilities to do that, because it's easy enough for these parties to say, okay, the funds aren't being used accurately, and so then they it happens different every different settlement, but they don't necessarily pause payments, but they start putting payments in escrow and say, until you fix this, we're not going to distribute the funds directly to you or something like that. And that's where we as a state would get in trouble. So there's accountability mechanism here that we need to have in place and that we need to stress, and obviously that's going to be a lot of the responsibility for the advisory council. And then obviously having a mechanism that we can show, hey, we need to be able to know what these funds were used for. We need to be able to trace them back. We need to be able to possibly answer the questions of, okay, I'm just going to say we're going to take $100,000 to serve, this need for 5 new X, whatever here, whether it's widgets or positions or something like that. We need to be able to show that these funds were allocated for that. They were used properly. The funds weren't, shuffled around or anything like that, because that's just obviously advisory council's responsibility to kind of move forward with that. So.
Let me add one other thing that maybe needs to be clarified a little bit. That allocation number will then control how much. Okay, let me step back a little bit. 70% of the money is going to go into this statewide abatement trust. Every single abatement region will then have a percentage of that money based upon your allocation percentage. So that's one of the things that you have to be aware of. It's like your bank account. The trust is like a bank. And so basically, Missoula County is going to get X million dollars in that, and the multi-county region number 2 is going to have all of their various counties summed up together, and you're going to have an account that's X hundreds of thousands of dollars that's going to be yours to use. But you can't, so you need to be aware, and that's what the executive director and the trust committee is going to be doing, is they're going to be keeping track of how much money you've requested, how much money you've gotten, and how much money you may have left in your trust, in your share of the trust account. So that's the only other constraint. You have to be able to say, this is opioid abatement and why, and then you have to understand that you're only going to get this much money based upon your percentage of the 70%. You're going to directly...
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, your abatement region your abatement region is based on that percentage, and that's what you're going to get to that region. And so why I say region is because, Eric, you kind of briefly brought up, you know, you get some counties that are like, I mean, I know they probably don't want to say it, but is it worth it, you know, for this initial deposit? But it's more than that. You know, they're not just getting this 15%, they're getting a piece of this larger percentage of this 70%. But, you know, like I said, you got a abatement region, you know, Fergus is in region 3, right? And I can't remember exactly all the counties that are in region 3, but, you know, region 3, you know, if you add up all the percentages of the allocation for each county in region 3, it's a bigger pool, and now they can work together, and that's why they're in that abatement region to say, what do we want to do in our abatement region that'll help our area, you know, our whole, you know, because now you're taking a bigger piece of that pie to try to affect across, as opposed to just pinpoint it and say, we're going to work with just this city or whatever, even though we all understand it bleeds over and it spreads out kind of a thing. So, but yes, Bill is accurate. You know, that abatement region, and that those, whether it's a multi-county abatement region or it's a metro region, you know, you're going to have an allotted number of the percentage of the pie that's coming in to yours, and so you can't request obviously more than that, or if you want to say budget for more than that for that governance structure, if it's a program that you want to funding on a consistent basis.
So I'm gonna open up to questions from the membership, but a couple of things that I just want to clarify, more administrative than anything. All 56 counties have signed the underlying MOU. All 56 counties received 2 different versions of what I'll call amendments to the MOU, Amendment 1 and Amendment 2. Not all have signed Amendment 2, but we need to get that second amendment signed and codified back to DOJ. And so we'll talk about that as a separate, distinct process. Amendment 2, as I understand it, completely replaced the proposal in Amendment 1, which seemed to cause a lot of turmoil and friction among our membership. So, go ahead, Russ.
Eric, can I clarify?
Yeah.
Basically, rather than putting numbers on it, there is, on the website, there's the November original MOU, and then there is a January 27th amendment. And there were several other things that were sent out, which basically were controversial enough that they were withdrawn. So there's basically 2 documents, the original MOU and then amendment to it that essentially is intended to clarify the role of the local, what the authority of the local is in making decisions on how to use the money, and what the essentially limited authority of the trust committee is in terms of you know, controlling what the locals do. That was all that was in there. There's very little change, no change in the governance, no change in the allocations, anything. It was just to clarify the roles of the trust committee versus the abatement regions.
And if I can muddy the waters a little bit more, and Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but, and so I get it. There's the original MOU, then there's the first amendment. There was a second amendment that was sent out and then rescinded. And then Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but we sent out another second amendment in, I don't know if it was May or June, that was just to clean up some stuff that as a trust we actually couldn't do legal wise. Is that accurate, Bill?
Yeah, the second amendment has very few signatures to it, and it's it's unclear whether we can operate, whether we need to have it agreed to or not. I mean, it's a legal question of whether it needs to be done or not, but some felt that it should be. But the 2 documents that, if you go to the national website, there are 2 documents. There's the MOU and the amendment to the MOU. There are still a number of counties and, well, I think all the cities have signed the.
Yeah, they've signed
everybody has signed the MOU, but there's a few cities and counties that haven't signed the amendment. And I can get that, and I've got a spreadsheet that shows that, and that's kind of, once we get going on this stuff and once we start having, you know, money flowing, we're going to need to have that amendment in place, and that will be another priority to get done.
Then the last thing was just a recognition among the population centers in the counties that surround them. Whether they're a metro, whether you're a multi, I would suggest to our membership that you keep in mind where the service delivery is. In all of the regions, there's generally one, sometimes two, sometimes three hubs where this money would be likely appropriately designated to: mental health, chemical dependency, law enforcement, treatment services. So think, as you're structuring your governance structure and looking at the pots that are carved out based on the MOU, how that money is going to get to your service centers, not necessarily your county. And I think both Rusty and Bill hit on that. If Weaver County doesn't have a significant amount of cash, but services are available in their district, or even I say potentially outside, that money should be designated to the places that where you can get the best bang for your buck, i.e. don't recreate a bunch of different service offerings in places that don't financially make sense. And with that, questions from members.
This is Commissioner Barron in Lake County, and it hasn't been made clear to me yet today, but we got, the one printout shows Lake County's supposed to get $68,000. Now, that is part of the 15%, the way we look at it, the way we understand it, and that is controlled by us locally. And then our share of the 70% is where the 9-member boards come into play. If we want money out of the 70%, that's where we put our governance structure together to go through that and get that money. Is that correct?
Correct.
Well, essentially correct, but Lake County, if I remember correctly, is one of the metro counties. It's one of the 9 that is only your county. So
That's right, Bill.
essentially, you're going to be getting 2 sets of money that is only designated for Lake County. You're going to get the 15% that's going to come directly to you, and then you're going to get an allocation share for Lake County out of the trust. But to get that money, you need to basically apply for it. And the trust committee will then, see that it, sign off on it and send you the money if it meets opioid abatement. In the multi-counties, yes, the multi-counties will get a sum of money that is based upon adding up all of the allocations for that multi-county that they can then get through the trust. All of the counties are going to get some small amount of money, small or large amount of money in the 15 that will come directly to that county. But to get the larger sums of money out of the 70%, they will be designated by abatement region. So if you've got a multi-county abatement region, the allocation for every one of those counties gets added up, and that becomes that multi-county region's money in the trust, in the 70% trust.
Thank you.
I'll add to that really quick too, just so everybody understands, everybody should have gotten that. I apologize, I don't remember what's the Montana payment allocation Excel spreadsheet that we sent out. There's 2 tabs on that. There's year 1 and year 2. And just like anything, this has been fairly slow to develop on the national level as the settlement, gets going through, so on and so forth. Bill, correct me if I'm wrong really quick, but there's not, where we may see year 1 and year 2 pretty much back to back or pretty close. Is that accurate or is that inaccurate?
Yes. Yeah, well, the original settlement was in July of 2021, and the first payment date was, I think, in the spring of 2022. We're already coming up to the second payment date. So basically, year 1 and year 2 will be coming, if not at the same time, pretty close to the same time. And we will be getting the Janssen money again. So the Janssen money is about a half, maybe a half of, I'd have to think it through a little bit and look at it. But there will be basically 3 large payments in the next few months.
And we can cross that when we get there. But I just wanted, so like Lake County, just to answer you, year 1 you get around 13,900. Year 2 it's around 14,600. So there's an opportunity where that money is going to come directly to you to use, and you use that in your own county, comes in deposited once you go through that portal. And then like Bill was saying, Lake County is its own. I don't know if it's a metro region. Is that right, Bill? Yeah. Yeah. And so you would have your own governance for that metro region, and then you're just submitting that through that is your own individual abatement region, more or less. And you're submitting that through the advisory council on the statewide level for additional funds from that 70% pod, whatever percentage you're allocated. So that would be the same process for everybody. Whether if you're in a multi-county region or if you're in a metro region, this 15% is coming directly to you. And then anything additional that you're drawing from the trust at that 70% level is going through, whether it's your multi-county abatement region governance structure or your metro region, and is submitting it through into the advisory council at the state level.
Just let me give this is an example. I think I heard Rusty saying that Lake County's 15% direct payment is like 13,000 and 14,000. If you multiply that number by about 4.8 or whatever it is to get to 70%, you can sort of roughly estimate how much will be in the trust for your share of your if you're a metro county, Lake County, let's just do the numbers for Lake County. Year one, you get 14,000. In the trust, you will probably get somewhere in the area of 65,000. So that money will then be available to you as well. You just have to make an application through the trust.
Thank you. That explains it pretty well for us. Thank you.
Eric, this is McGinley in Beaverhead County. Can we draw our own boundaries that make sense, or do we have to use these abatement boundaries that are created there? Like Park County and Beaverhead County aren't even in the same trade district. Park County or Beaverhead County, we go through two metros to even talk to each other. The structure of this thing looks like it's going to take some time, and not by December 1 to begin with. But we have MACO districts with the chair and a vice chair that maybe be able to start to organize this stuff, get together. Can we go that way, or how do you getting all these counties to get these governance structures in place for people or something, even maybe winter conference when we get together?
So I'm going to ignore the first part of your question, Commissioner, and I'm going to try and give you some guidance on the second half. I think the easiest way for us to facilitate discussions with the metro regions is using the framework that we have for urban counties. We'll invite in Lake, Duke, Silver Bowl, and get all those guys together on the metro regions, hold it like an urban county meeting, follow some process for them to review applications and nominate folks to get their committee appointments made through the Urban Counties Coalition. The district chairs make really good sense for us, but the districts are hard-coded in the MOU, and we're not going to mess with those, and we're not going to ask DOJ to mess with those. I don't want to even open up that can of worms. But that's not to say that the district chair process that we have can't be used for you guys to formulate and get together. But I frankly think we're going to have to do it region by region on Zoom in order to just get some basic interlocal agreements, MOUs, designated fiscal agents, and a process for nominating your appointees. I think we're going to have to do it by Zoom and then revert back to something that looks like our district structure in compliance with these health districts, because this is going to be an ongoing, long-term process for distribution of these funds. So I think no is my short answer. But it does open up another question that I think might be relevant. There's nothing that would prohibit funds from a district going to another district. Region 4, Beaverhead County might have a program that they want to support in Region 5, Ravalli County. Nothing prohibits them from doing that, right?
Absolutely not. I mean, that, and it also is the possibility that if, the Attorney General and DPHHS have their own funds, the 15% they have, if one of the counties or some multi-county says, look, we don't have enough money to do this, but we think it will have broad-based importance for the state of Montana, DPHHS and the Attorney General may be able to fund it as well. I mean, that's all contemplated, that you can cooperate however you want to.
And then concurrently, a Bighorn or Treasure County could dedicate or allocate their funds to Yellowstone County to offset service delivery as a population center. Even though Yellowstone's their own entity, nothing prohibits the counties that are adjacent to the metros from pooling their funds together to get the biggest bang for their buck.
Right, and absolutely, and some of the big counties, like I know Missoula has an extensive, I mean, I was the chair of the City County Health Board for 15 years, and I know they have an extensive staff, expertise, facilities, etc. And it may very well be that Mineral and Sanders want to come in and use those facilities and share and share some of their money.
Other questions?
Or even Ravalli, you know, I mean, Ravalli's a large county and has its own money, but it may decide that why repeat something that's already available in Missoula, which is close enough. Those are all things that we've tried to keep flexible as much as possible.
I know you have other questions out there, folks. I know we have some attorneys on here. Let's fire some attorneys' questions.
So this is Leo Gallagher. So as a precondition to receiving the money, there is another resolution or amendment to the MOU. I think I, for one, have been confused by the number of inquiries and, you know, and usually they're under some sort of a time deadline. You got to do this or that by some time deadline. And so I think that I'm unclear as to, number one, what we are expected to sign by way of an MOU, and I would appreciate having that resent. I think you said you would do that. Secondly, what is the deadline for that in order to participate in the money? And thirdly, what happens if, I can tell you that my exchange with some county attorneys is they think that they're not affected by this conversation because they have opted out at some point, maybe when their original MOU was drafted and sent around. So if somebody doesn't sign that, what is the consequence to the deal on the national level? And so if we can get some clarity there. And I think my last question is that I think that there's some, I think, for example, maybe Missoula County is in the deal. This is just an example, but is the city of Missoula also participating in the distribution of money by virtue of the original MOU? Do we have to do business with the city government if we're a county government if they are receiving their money independently?
There's a lot of there's several questions there, Leo. The first is that as a condition of the Montana getting the money, and as a part of the bonus that I told you, we had a deadline of January 26, 2021 to get every county and 6 cities to sign 2 documents, agreeing to participate in the settlement nationally and agreeing to the primary MOU, which was drafted in November of 2021. Every single county and all 6 cities agreed to that. We would not have been able to get the full 100% of the money unless we got that. The additional, the amendment to that was basically clarifying some of the uncertainty that some of the counties had with regard to how the governance was going to work. What were the roles of the trust versus what were the roles of the local governments? But otherwise, there are no deadlines. Everybody has signed on. Everybody on this phone call had at some point signed the MOU and agreed to participate. What has to happen next in terms of deadline is that until we get your governance developed and until we get representatives to the trust committee, the money is gonna come into, the 70% money is gonna come into that trust, and there will be no mechanism for you or any other abatement region to get that money out until this governance structure is developed. So it's not a hard deadline, it's a soft deadline, as Eric said, but it's until these governance are developed and you have representatives on the trust committee, that money is just gonna, that 70% money is just gonna sit in that trust account. You will have the 15% money will be sent to you directly, but the 70% money you will not have. Secondly, I think, or thirdly, fourthly, whatever the question was, Missoula and Missoula County, each, the 6 cities, and I'm sure Helena is one of them. It's like Missoula, Billings, Butte, Kalispell, you know who they are. There's the 6 largest cities all have their own allocation, okay? But in terms of the abatement regions, the metro abatement region, Missoula City and Missoula County will have to cooperate to decide how to use that money. Just like Lewis and Clark County and Helena will have to cooperate to how to use that money, because they are in one abatement region. Does that answer? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I think it does. So as additional farmers settle, should we expect further needs for further resolutions as time goes on?
There will be, if the MOU works as we hope it does, and we get it off the ground, and it starts working to distribute the distributors' funds and the Ganson funds, we will not create another MOU. But you will have to sign a quote-unquote participation agreement, which is essentially releasing and agreeing to the national settlement. So that will be coming soon. I think the deadline for that is 4 or 5 months away. It just came today, or Wednesday, I think.
And thank you. And I just have a suggestion is that the county attorneys organization, as the county attorneys association, MACO has MACO. I think that for the success of this project, that I would encourage the Attorney General's office and to work through those organizations. And as a start, I would encourage them to, our association meeting is in Billings at the end of the month, and I think MACO has a board meeting December 5th or so, and I just think we need to spread the word as to what's going on and how to address whatever needs to be addressed by way of the county commissioners and county attorneys.
Yeah, we did send, not quite a year ago, but when we were sending out the first MOUs and the first amendment, some of that information was distributed through the County Attorneys Association. There's a executive director who's a lawyer in Helena, and she basically, I think it went out under her name or under my name for support. So we have been using that. We used it at least once, and that was helpful. I don't know, you get a lot of stuff, and I can imagine that, some of this stuff gets like a little overwhelming. I agree, though. We want to use every institution that exists, and we're very, very grateful to Eric for setting this up, because I think it'll be important in terms of getting the ball rolling.
Further questions, folks? We're running out. We got about 5 minutes left.
Steve Gannon from Choteau County. Has any of the abatement regions already set up a governing structure? I know I've talked with Merle. I see him on here. Maybe we should appoint him as the lead to do that. But I know we haven't done it in our county. But has anyone?
I've been to that, Steve.
So the short answer is no. The metro regions themselves, there's a template to help them get set with adopting resolutions, because it's really easy for when your county is your metro region, designating who your governing board is and designated official. there are no examples, and I looked across the country to see if I could find examples of MOUs and interlocals to help us get set up. I can't find any, but we're gonna draft them. That's the one thing I said, that's one of the things I said we volunteer to do. So we're gonna try, our attorneys here are gonna try and put together some templates, so how you could designate a fiscal agent, how you could come together through an interlocal agreement to get this work done in the very near future. I don't know of an example that anywhere in Montana is close to this. I do want to say one more thing. You guys are all very familiar with the great process that we just went through with state funds and ARPA, and how counties that were eligible for water and sewer projects got to graciously grant those dollars, since counties don't run water and sewer projects, to sub-entities. I believe that the same requirements are going to be put in place here. If a county wants to designate their funds to a sub-recipient, the direct recipient county is still going to be held responsible for compliance and use of those funds. Just like when the county received ARPA funds and gave it to a city or a special district, the county is still responsible for compliance with all the restrictions and strings attached. I want you to keep that in mind as we're drafting these MOUs, because we'll help you try and transfer responsibility as best we can by contract. But at the end of the day, if it's misspent, DOJ is going to come after the county, and the feds, if they get interested in it, are going to come after the direct recipient. So although we'll try and help in that, just be cautious that with either your 15% money, or if you somehow are able to sub-allocate funds, the recipient county is going to be the one held responsible.
Yeah, there is a provision in the MOU for review and audits as needed, or for requesting, for the trust committee requesting additional information on how you use the money. That's the accountability that's incorporated into the MOU. But you're right. I mean, if there is an agency, you know, if there's a, like NAMI or something like that, if there's an agency in your community that is already dedicating effort and has expertise in these problems, that agency or sub-entity, as you called it in the ARPA funds, can make an application to your local governance and say, hey, we want to use some of Missoula County money to do this because we've got a program that's really working great. Or Lake County says, well, we want to do something that's working really great in one of our rural areas that has a problem. Can we do that? And you can.
Eric, I think it'd probably be really important if you and I kind of continue to have some more open dialogue, and as you kind of filter and get questions, you know, I'm sure people are going to have more questions. Questions are going to come up. You want to, you know, kind of receive those and put those together. Maybe you and I have either, whether it's email communication or even just have a conversation or meet up, and I can continue to have, you know, this dialogue so we can help these. They'll help this process go through. And if you have meetings, like I said, I'm stationed in Billings, so if you have meetings in Billings you want me to attend, whether it's, you know, county commissioners, county attorneys, obviously a different association, but I'm more than happy and willing to do that.
I appreciate that. I'll definitely take you up on that offer. We'll try and filter. I know we'll get consistent questions, and the process stuff is going to be helpful for having your guidance on, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I think, Eric, I can't express my gratitude strongly enough about how you're getting engaged in this will be very, very important. And I'm volunteering Rusty and I, if you want to do like a half an hour Zoom every 2 weeks, or even just randomly say, hey, we got enough questions on these topics. Can we do a Zoom, Tuesday at 1 o'clock? I'm available to do that. I'm not exclusively working on opioids for the Attorney General, but it's about 80% of my time.
Appreciate that, and I promise you I'll be taking you up on that offer.
I'm happy to do it.
I have about no minutes left on the scheduled time. For the membership, I just want to let you know that Chantel's working on that toolkit. We're going to try and put together one place for all the consolidated information you need, from the original MOU to the only amendment that's out there that's relevant, to the site that shows the distribution of funds, to the framework that we're going to come up with for best practices on governance structures, to the organization of the different regions and who's in each region. We were going to put that together and make it available, but in earnest, we'll start bugging you guys, probably by district chair and vice chair in regions, to start setting up Zoom meetings to get together with the organizational documents that we need to get in the 5 areas. On the metro side, with the exception of Lake and Butte Silver Bow, we're gonna just, unless you tell me otherwise, we're gonna convene a urban counties meeting and invite those other metro regions in to start your planning process, which frankly I think is gonna be much easier than the multi-district counties, and you should see that coming soon.
Let me address this December 1 headline. It's really good. More time, just so everybody. I didn't want to create any heartburn for everybody. I understand that every county operates different, and you know when they meet, how often we got holiday season. It's really just I guess, if anything, honestly, it did what it needed to do. It created this conversation, right? And this is what we were looking for. And so we're just trying to get the ball rolling. We're not missing out on anything yet. Money's not sitting anywhere. But it's coming, and it's coming soon, and that's why we just wanted to kick this domino over to say, hey, I know sometimes if we don't give out a deadline, guess what? Nothing would happen. And so I appreciate it, Steve, on that question on the December 1st. And so really what it is the sooner the better. I don't want an opportunity to come to where this money is coming and sitting here, but we haven't had an opportunity to allocate or to get this out into the quote-unquote marketplace or to make some effect out here. Because we just didn't have stuff in place, and so this thing's been delayed and you know when they were going to make their first payments, and you know that keeps happening. But I just wanted to do whatever we can to get our structures and help these abatement regions get their governance structure together sooner rather than later. And so if it's December 1st, if it's December 15th, if it's the 1st of January. That's fine. I just don't want to push it too far. That's all I'm asking is I'm just asking for participation in your local area. Start those conversations. Eric's obviously already started that. But I just wanted you to know who is in your abatement. Who do you need to be speaking to in that region to make that happen?
Rusty, Bill, thank you for short notice. I really appreciate the fact that you guys were willing to participate in this town hall. It would have been not worth it for our members had you not been here. So we got lots of work to do and more follow-up, and then I'll finish with this. We always advocate from your Montana Association of Counties perspective on local control. This is an example of local control where they put the onus on the locals like we asked them to, and we need to come up with these structures that are creative and unique and defined by the 5 regions that are carved out on this map, and so we'll get that done. More to come, and I appreciate everybody for your time and attention.
Rusty, can you stay on for just a second?
Yeah.
Are they done?
Yeah, they're all signed
Well,
up.
I see people, so I think so.
No, we don't have an agenda.
I know, but
So how do we have a meeting?
I didn't get agenda items from anyone, and so there is no agenda. And so Dwayne's asking how we proceed without an agenda.
Can we wing it? Maybe?
Yeah, let's give it a
Well,
shot.
this particular tow truck is in the rotation of the county, and that's what they need.
Rusty, how are you related to Derek?
Derek got home.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, we grew up.
Are you sure about that? Because I'm pretty sure that that's not true. Because every time we have a call out on the Wesley, the call goes over the radio to
You know, I
dispatch to
highly
send the next
recommend
rotation.
everybody read about the Sackler family and their dynasty because they're the ones that started that opioid.
That's not true. I know that's not true.
They don't care.
No, Rich Beyond. Rich doesn't even describe
Be
it.
careful who you say is true.
I just did this research about Southwest for.
Roman, have you read
So there's
anything on the
delays that
Sackler
happen,
family?
there's delays that
Not
happen
really, but
on
I-
the got pass with
heard a little
response
bit about it.
because the tow truck in rotation is from Superior.
Oh, what
Or
is
from
it?
From Weston.
Or from
For Alberton.
But they don't
Good to see ya.
call it this rotation.
Come on up.
Isn't it from rotation?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
How's it going?
You don't get a call. Or he gets.
Boy, we got a deal for you.
Woo, you do? You do? Let's hear it.
Not able to do that one.
So we don't have an agenda for the board of governors.
Amy does have a few things
Oh,
that.
does she? Okay.
Yep,
Okay, well, let's do
she's
that
gonna write them
first.
out, yep.
On the west end,
And then I'll
is
keep
the
you in
end of this
suspense.
because they're lying to these rotations and they're not getting. moving. I mean, I know when you get that.
What happens is,
It's slammed.
so which trucking company is this?
Did this?
Yeah,
Street lights.
New norm, right?
Still having, Sean said,
Oh, it's for you
Write
to
down-
see, I think she finally got a
I'll
signature.
contact the trucker back, he's out of New York. 2 days
These are the
later, he
ones
doesn't know.
that we did.
He did, he
Yes,
will.
and I
I
looked
I
at them.
don't remember because I didn't take a picture of the truck.
And so I looked
But I
at
have his
it,
number
and
and
if you know
he
what
asked
I'm
me
anything
to.
that screws up the
I wanna get rid of it.
We'll give them that.
Yeah, I'm gonna run those up.
Okay.
So the other thing was this.
We had quite a few problems with email issues, Amy, so.
I have also been having them. I was on the phone with
Okay.
DIS yesterday.
Okay,
So,
So who gets
yeah.
the brunt?
I'm sorry,
No,
very sorry.
no worries.
Who's on the top?
All night last night, standing over a truck, down Lambetville to wait for speeds from Missoula, and yet here's extreme towing right down the road that has the rotator.
Yeah, why didn't you get
I
extreme?
don't understand. It would be the county that dispatched that, not the fire
What
department.
happened with that? See, that was one of the people who complained that there was.
Well, we don't have an agenda for the Board of Health meeting, but we're gonna kind of wing it here anyway.
I had sent some items, but
Oh.
apparently it didn't go through.
No, she said she was.
So I'm just writing down the
Oh, okay,
email that I
okay.
sent, so.
All right, I'll hang on.
But there isn't a concrete.
Didn't mean to rush you.
Sensation.
Yes, I'll mention it to Franklin Butte Chief to come talk to you about that, because if we can, getting things moving faster, that's so.
Because see, that was my fear. When Gonzalez is told me, for the whole generation, that's what it was, the whole, I don't know what the is. In the thing, the sense that this is what this kid is. And else needs sorts of coverage. There's a reason.
Wow, that much, just for campground.
The deputies yet very come out, it's almost always.
Oh, yeah, wait.
Here's what I have. I tried to make this chicken scratch, but let me know if you can't.
The chief on the west end, who knows this is a rotating.
Some of these
says
lanes, you know, like
it's
the
getting
wild
closer.
Sometimes
Can
actually
they
close to
recommend
town where
that
they
to
can
us?
fight the fire
They can call it,
anyway.
they can say call it.
So, I mean, that concerns me.
The fire department can
Like
do-
Woodville.
They don't believe they can.
They can. They are not now keeping rotation. They're out of the.
All right, so we do have an agenda.
But I'll have Franklin.
I'll call the Board of Health to order. Don't have any minutes, I guess. Anyway. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is the truck wreck protocol.
Yeah, so I have been working with Andy's office, this environmental health office, on just getting an updated truck wreck protocol. Nothing changed other than anytime that we have new people, so we have a new county attorney. So we look at all of our documents and figure out if we need to have those updated. So we did make a few more changes to the truck wreck protocol that really just spell out more of the planning processes. So I was going to present that to you guys for signature, and I don't need a signature right this second, but just wanted to make sure. And then since you guys technically house this document, anything that you wanted to add or state about this is totally fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you wanna kick that back to us one more time, and
Okay.
then we'll come and bring it.
Okay, so
I mean,
let's,
You can certainly pass that.
okay.
There,
It doesn't have any signatures yet, so it's not a problem to pass that one along. Good morning.
yeah, I think I'll take that to LEPC as well.
So is this one just, regarding the food items, it's not necessarily the hazmat, diesel, et cetera?
I believe so.
And you guys have a deliverable, is that part of the?
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of our grants is, it really just has us check in with Andy's office every now and then. And so one of the deliverables was to review that truck and train wreck protocol. And so that's why we were looking at signatures. Really, you'll see that our signature is not on it because it's really not something that we get, you know, you guys don't call us when you have a truck wreck. that's interesting. But yeah, so that's what prompted looking at it.
So this is something we need a copy of for our
When there are signatures, yes. We'll make sure that everybody that's involved has a copy.
Thank you. I guess the next item then is Mineral County Health Board Emergency Operation Plan.
Okay, so this plan hadn't been updated until since maybe 2014 or 2015. So we looked back through it. One of the things that we had done in the last few years was separate out what we call the communicable disease annex. So there are a lot of plans and protocols. Some are really emergency preparedness, really might not pertain to communicable disease. And so we separated out those. So now that communicable disease annex exists as an addition to what we now have an updated emergency operations plan. It's really similar to the county plan, where it lays out that NIM structure and then, like laboratory sample, volunteer registry, like really just kind of the broader emergency response that you would see from public health, whereas this communicable disease annex is very specific to what we are required to do per disease, basically. So we now have an updated version of this emergency operations plan. And I did not print the entire thing because it's 65 pages long. So
We probably wouldn't have read it.
Yep, no, so it has been looked at by quite a few people at this point. But so what I did was I printed the table of contents, because that's kind of your best summary of what the document includes. And on the old one, the 3 signatures, we had the health department director, our health officer, and then Board of Health sign it. So we're kind of just following along with that same protocol, I guess. So Laurel and Jen have both signed off on it, so now just having you guys check it out. So I will pass this one along to you guys as well. And any questions that you have on it, feel free to ask either now or later.
Looks like pretty well got it covered there. Thank you.
And I'm guessing the next thing that I wrote down was communicable disease. So same thing, it's the same document, but this one is 62 pages. So Yeah, like I said, we broke it out. It's really more disease specific, like when we have to call our epidemiology team together, when we work, with other people, just guidance for specific diseases in that one. So again, when we broke that one out, because it used to live as part of that emergency operations plan, same signatures, director, health officer, and you guys. And then some of our laws did change with the last legislation, so when we review these, we make sure that the most up-to-date information is in there, so that when we reference them, we have the most up-to-date stuff.
What sort of things did they speak with at the last legislature on regarding protocol like this?
Yeah, so the one I think that shows up the most in there would be Board of Health. And it's been so long since I've talked about it that I might not.
Oh, related to the COVID thing? Or...
Yeah, so really it kind of that, I want to say more local control.
Oh, yeah.
But there, in order to implement anything, there are now more strict.
Now I know.
Yeah,
where to go.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
So that, that is referenced in there as well.
Problem in Bozeman, I think, and maybe Kalispell.
So, and I think we just have one more as far as signatures go. I'm left with just one. So this was an old document, now that we had time for the dust to somewhat settle for a hot minute. We started looking through some of our MOUs, and of course through, the last few years, we realized that there were gaps with some of our processes. So one of those was to review MOUs with other organizations in the county and dust those up if they needed to, or if people, had changed out. So this was one that's really between the hospital and the clinic, Jack Lincoln Memorial Clinic, our health department, and then Mineral County under the direct authority of the commissioners. So this one, you guys can actually just take the time to read this, but it really just references, that we are guided by the emergency operations plan, and that we will all basically support each other in any sort of public health emergency type thing. So, a few of the people had changed. I think this one was also last signed in 2015. So it's really just, I did not change the wording on it at all. I just updated who signs it on the back. And if you guys want to take time to read that, I don't need a signature on it right now, so it's completely up to you guys. Would you guys like a hard copy of the emergency operations plan and communicable disease plan? Or
Is it on the website or available that way?
no, I can email it to everybody though. But I didn't know if paper or electronic was preferred.
It's pretty thick though, right?
It's pretty big.
Yeah, I would probably.
Okay. Then I'll make sure everybody gets it electronically.
So let me ask you, should it be printed and be in the Board of Health notebook?
I don't think so because we update it at least once a year.
Okay,
And
good.
every quarter we're reviewing specific documents within this larger plan. So we don't keep a printed copy of it because it is updated so
Yes.
frequently.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah,
you.
electronic's good.
Good.
Yeah.
We've started using Microsoft Teams within our department and then to communicate in HIPAA compliant ways with other entities. So we could actually set up like a team with Board of Health members, and then in there we can use it as a chat function, so send messages back and forth. But also we could put these documents in there, so if somebody revises it, then it's just kind of a living document and it lives in a shared space. DIS put Teams on our phones and on our computers, and so that's an option for these, like just a central like shared drive type place.
Yeah.
Because then if an emergency ever happened, whoever could just go to their computer and print it and then have access to it. So just an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only way anybody is allowed into those teams is if they're specifically invited. So it's not like anybody with a county email address can access it, only people who are invited in. It's kind of neat.
Andy, did you have something?
Mm-hmm. You guys finished?
Yeah, I'll do
Oh, yeah.
it for just a general update later.
Yeah, no, you can do the update now, I didn't mean to cut you
Sure.
off.
So we've been hopping. Things with COVID slowed down, thank goodness. How long has it been since we've had a Board of Health meeting? Like a
Long
year?
time. Yeah,
Maybe
probably.
half a year? It's been
Half
a
a year,
long
anyway.
time. So we were just thinking in general terms, I was thinking, okay, it's a good time to update you on what's happening in our department, and then we'll chat a little bit about communicable disease stuff. But right now we have 11 staff. All of our programs are fully functional. We're doing a lot of work with like children and families. Our home visitors have started doula services. We still offer car seats and all sorts of stuff. Childbirth education has been really, really cool. I think they're visiting like 35 families. In WIC, we have about 40 families. We're still in all the schools, delivering immunizations, flus, COVID, regular stuff. So we've been fully operational. Amy, she was very gracious in saying we revised all these plans and stuff. She really dove into all that stuff, which has been very awesome. I'm very appreciative of that. And then Amy and Melanie are primarily our communicable disease team right now. Barbara and I help out as needed, but these two are it. So it's been really good. We've kind of delegated some of our duties and it's been awesome. So we lost a nurse again and haven't rehired or anything like that. So we've been busy, but we still have a rock star team and we're doing well. So Amy will give you a little update because it's been awesome. She asked me how many flu shots we gave, and I think we've given about 250-ish or so. We still have plenty to give, so I would definitely recommend people get their flu shot if so inclined, because they're predicting it to be a rip-roaring influenza year, and we have circulating cases and stuff. So Barb and I are pretty much giving shots whenever somebody asks for it. At first I was like, well, they gotta do it at these specific times, but yeah, we're doing them whenever we're around. So just encourage people to call our office and we'll get an appointment made and we'll get it done. And there's a lot happening in the communicable disease
There is.
realm.
Really?
You want me to take over?
Yeah.
Okay. So interesting thing, and as this is all kind of unfolded with COVID, we've learned, I would say 2 years ago, we had a really good idea of what was happening with COVID in our county based on numbers. That now means nothing. So if you looked up how many cases we had, it's 12. But testing has changed so much in the last few years. People are able to access tests, at their home. They're not required to report to us. Really, the people that we see are ones who are testing for work, and some of our older population or people that have kids in school. So those are really, we're only getting a tiny snippet of what the broader picture is. So I would say while we don't have a ton of cases, we have a steady stream of cases just constantly coming in. Right now, what we've been seeing is COVID and confirmed strep and confirmed influenza right now. So we just have this amazing smorgasbord of respiratory viruses. A lot of the schools are reporting back that, there's just a lot of respiratory symptoms right now. So of the ones that are being tested, this is kind of our report back. You just have to remember that what we see from the test results really isn't very reflective of what's actually happening across our county. So that covers respiratory illnesses. I think it should be mentioned right now, we're paying attention to what's happening, across the nation, and they're seeing a huge spike in, it's a virus called RSV, and off the top of my head, I can rattle off what it means to you.
Respiratory something around something. I shouldn't even have tried. It's I can look it up.
So it's a disease that's pretty I don't wanna say common, but most children are exposed to it when they're a lot younger. They can have some pretty dire consequences for young babies though. So what we've been kind of keeping tabs on is that in larger metro areas, so many children have RSV right now that they are sending them straight from the ER over to any pediatric hospitals. And so we don't usually see that, with all of, I'd say, our regular kind of seasonal illnesses, but this is concerning just as I'm reading, kind of from elsewhere, and we're hearing down from the state too, that pediatric hospital beds are hard to come by right now due to RSV. And then they're also having trouble sourcing antibiotics in large metro areas. So I don't know that anywhere around here is large and metro, but that's something that we're just kind of keeping an eye out, and we'll be putting messaging out more about what symptoms to watch for and when to take your kiddo into the doctor and that kind of stuff. So those are all the exciting respiratory viruses that we're hearing and paying attention to.
David, maybe you just say strep.
Strep. Yep. Strep throat.
But in the schools, we've seen the pukey bug, we've seen pink eye, we've seen impetigo outbreaks. I mean, it's just all happening.
Everything. Yeah. They're keeping us busy. So on top of that, we've also seen an increase in sexually transmitted infections. So recently, excuse me, we worked 2 syphilis cases, and we're honestly not sure when our department last saw syphilis.
Yeah, that's the old King's disease, right?
It's been a while, but we're seeing huge increases, not only across the state, but also across the nation as well, in STIs. So, yeah, so, kind of, we're still seeing hepatitis C. I can't think if we've seen anything like super out of the ordinary. I think syphilis those are really long and intensive investigations for syphilis, so I think anytime we get those, there's so much to know about the labs that come through and then what to expect next and how to classify it. So that was a hard learning curve for me, was learning about syphilis, but we still see our other STIs like chlamydia and gonorrhea as well.
And dog bites.
And lots of dog bites.
They're still happening.
They're still happening.
Yeah.
Usually they die off about this time of year. Because if you think in summertime when people get out with their animals and more interaction with humans, and yeah, we're still seeing those too. So the world of communicable disease has been interesting and busy.
Keeps them busy most of the time.
Yeah.
We've given about 6,500 COVID shots
Over
the last 2 years, which is a lot. It's a lot of vaccines, so it's been busy.
So what is I do have a question with
Sure.
that. So I've had the COVID shot, then I had a booster.
Okay.
Are you supposed to continue with boosters, or what's your take?
So in August, they approved the newest booster. It's a bivalent vaccine, so that means that it contains the original strain plus the Omicron strain. And anybody who has not had that vaccine should get a booster of that particular vaccine.
Okay,
It's the only one that's approved now. So basically, if it's been more than 2 months, you should get it.
That's available to you.
Yeah, so we're still holding our clinics, first Friday of every month drive-throughs. We do at the health department or up at the assisted living if we, depending on capacity. And then walk-ins. We've been doing off-site clinics like in the schools, and then we're planning in early December to go to each community and offer these booster rounds. So, yeah. And then Amy has some general, do you want to do overall cases?
Yeah, so just looking up this morning, we have had 1,305 COVID cases since all of this started, total of 17 deaths. We haven't seen a COVID-related death, I want to say, since maybe January. We've had a nice long stretch of being able to get people recovered from COVID. Things have changed with COVID in a lot of ways. Treatment is so much more accessible now. Used to you had to have a viral test and it had to be approved by a doctor, and there were so many steps and there's such a small window from when you can get treatment from when your symptoms start. So I think access to both testing and treatment has helped, improve that outcome. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Amy,
That's all I had.
what treatments are available in Monroe County right now?
Well, I don't know if our pharmacy carries the oral Paxlovid. I believe that the hospital can do an infusion. So I would say probably just reach out to the primary care physician. There's a way I think you can go on to, I don't know if it's what the website's called, but you can go and find pharmacies near you that have the medication. And as far as I know, the closest ones are gonna be in Missoula for like the oral medication. I haven't checked with our local pharmacy in probably about a month or so to see if they've started carrying it. I'm not sure if they ever did or if they intend to. So that might be a good thing for us probably to check in with them on, but we would still recommend people to call there first just because it's so much closer than having to go all the way to Missoula,
Sure.
especially if you're sick and you're in isolation. So it's, it would be very convenient if we could, find a way to get it here locally.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
We're gonna get a new dentist in town.
Yeah, there's a new dentist in town, accepts Medicaid for adults and kids, which is amazing. Because that's been a big barrier for a lot of people. Most people would have to go to Missoula and try to get an appointment with partnership, and they were booked out months and months. So that's really great. So I've been referring people, please do the same. I think everybody got a card in the mail, but if you want me to email you a picture that you can send to people or provide to people.
Where's the office located?
In the blue building.
Oh.
Yep, so the old clinic building basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know their hours or days or anything
Yeah.
like that, but it's just really
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. There's lots of really exciting stuff. We have so many things we could say and that we want to talk to you guys about, like if you want trainings for Board of Health, our other Board of Health members aren't here, but where I think this is a good time to just kind of revisit what is needed by the Board of Health, with the changes in legislation, if any of that happened post-COVID, all this stuff, what you want reported from us on what frequency, etc. So we're always open to feedback. And Amy's last thing here is that the community health assessment is going out next week. So if you receive one, please fill it out and encourage other people to do the same. Yes. And we're doing that in partnership with the hospital. And from there, we use that local data to, help secure funding and identify needs in the community.
Were you gonna ask for very much?
Go ahead.
So are you in a hurry?
Always.
You're gonna have to wait just a minute.
Oh, in a hurry to get
Yeah.
right? No, yeah.
Just in general, always.
So we just sat through a Zoom meeting with Mako on the opioid settlement that Montana is receiving. And we're looking for some way to filter that money and guide that money with the government.
Sure. Is that easy? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were kind of talking about it, but of course we need some more information on it.
Does that mean that you'll take it over? Is that what we just?
Yeah, that's what I would do.
So I have a lot of emails that I would just forward on to you with paperwork, and April could call anytime. I could do some history on when we applied and that type of thing, but if that's what you're saying, take it over, and we can get together and I'll pass on all the
Yeah, and
info.
they kind of stressed why put it someplace that if the Board of Health took it here, what are we gonna do with it? You guys serve the people, not necessarily us.
Yeah, and we have so many things already built in, like the Healthy Communities Coalition, where we could, I don't know what the grant wants, but oftentimes they want like an advisory council to help guide the
that's what they're
funding
looking
and
for.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's a multidisciplinary group that already meets on a regular basis, so we could just kind of work that in, figure out
And then,
some goals. And I think it's due soon.
Yeah,
It is.
the 1st of December is what they said that, and then at the end of the meeting, they said, well,
No.
the 1st of December, possibly the 15th of December, but the 1st of December, real.
Okay.
Kind of something like that.
It seems like a good place for it to go.
Yeah,
Like
it does.
a good place. We already do the grant stuff and, like I said.
Cool.
So who shall I send that
How
to?
about you send it to April and myself?
Okay,
Did you read some of it, Jen? Because they have kind of a convoluted, like they usually do, it's kind of like, there's a percentage, and then there's a percentage of the they have 5 regions set up in the state.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the opioid abatement, so it's supposed to strictly go for education on opioids or studies, I don't know what that means, studying opioid areas, or an opioid health nurse. I mean, I don't know exactly how firm.
Yeah.
And so then, one of the guys was saying that if there's a little small county like, let's just say Liberty County, where they go, oh, well, we just got 800 farmers here and nobody that we know of is really doing opioids, and we have all this money, but you have, if you don't use it, you can also like give it to a neighboring county. So maybe Liberty County thinks, well, most of our people with this problem will probably go to Havre, so you can give your percentage of your money to Missoula,
Okay.
or so if we said,
Sure.
but if we can't spend it all, those are options.
Yeah.
I didn't get into
I
the
think
weeds
the
with
health
it.
department will be able to spend it.
I think we're
And what they really
Yeah.
stressed
Yeah.
was the money is just starting to come in.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little bit now, but like they're saying they're settling with Walmart, they're settling with Walgreens,
CVS.
yeah, CVS.
That could be
Big
a
dollars are gonna-
somewhat more consistent funding stream, which would be pretty neat.
Yeah.
So my ask is if you get any feedback from the community, because it was on the agenda, please just connect those people with us as well.
Yes.
So we can get their feedback on ideas and things like that. But yes, I'll have to look at all of it.
Yeah.
And we'll put our heads together.
So did you say you and April or you and Amy? I'm sorry.
April.
Okay, that's what I wrote, but just wanted to double check. Okay, I will send that stuff today.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure, thanks for thinking of this.
I was just gonna say, yeah, when you guys get some administrative help, it might probably be a good idea to get this back on like a quarterly
Oh, we will.
basis.
Yep. I have the calendar open right now because I'm assuming that we'll set a date before we leave here today. Perfect.
I just had some quick numbers. We just ran septic permits since 2015. It's kind of interesting. So, in 2015 and 16, we were averaging like 25 a year. And then 2017 is when it like really kind of upticked. We went up to 40, and then 2018 was 40. 2019 is when I got here, and we went to 48. And then we started doubling from essentially our 2015 numbers. And so like the last 3 years we've been in the 80s. And over the last 2 years we've mapped between like 120 to 140 new structures. So that's all that business that we've all been feeling, that's kind of, there it is.
Thank you.
Now we just need Montana Department of Revenue to catch up, so.
You know
Our
what?
rates are going down.
Yeah, we can't complain about them too much because my house we haven't been living in my house a year. And they were out there a month ago looking it over. I tried to deny that wasn't my house. But I said I live in that little shed right over there, but they didn't believe me.
Yeah, what I found with them is new parcels aren't necessarily getting into the system for some reason.
Yeah.
And the other day I found 2 developed pieces of property in the town of Alberton that no one has.
Really?
Like no one has any idea deeds or legal descriptions or like it's like squatters maybe, so I think I'm gonna have to go and just like knock on the door and be like, hey, who'd you buy this from? What did it say?
You just
Is it
move
title
in here?
number? Like even the title companies are like, we don't know what those.
Really?
We don't know what those are. So anyway, we're picking up on stuff. We're chipping away. We're tightening up. Our connection with Department of Revenue and all that. Even stuff that people are hiding from us on. We're at least getting the Department of Revenue to know that it exists. So. And we've got our cooperative agreement with the Department of Health and Human Services to sign.
Okay.
Just a little housekeeping. That's all I got.
Thank you. What's the timeline on your office, do you know?
Don't know.
Don't know.
Are you getting?
Do you guys know?
What I talked to Norm yesterday, and he said he's waiting for the cement layer to come.
Oh,
They're
okay.
gonna pour, whatever you call them, they're gonna pour the cement, he doesn't have a date for that.
Oh, but the contractors are secured and it's
Well,
some sort.
I believe so. I mean, we did tell him which, we talked about which bid he would be accepting, so I have to assume that he did contact them and is waiting for them to come pour.
Good. Nice.
Yeah, I'd like to help you move back in as soon as you can.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta wait for that cement to set up, till we
No, this is right. I'm gonna wrap it. Definitely put my hand in it.
Yes.
Put you in there. Nobody's stealing that? Well, anything else?
For me,
Commissioner? Anything else?
No, I was just looking at the calendar, so we don't get away without a date, and I'm wondering about February 24th. $10 a.m.?
Yeah.
Works for me. Okay. Sure.
Andy, are you running a snow joke the next day?
Yeah.
Well, reach out to us anytime you guys have any questions or.
Right. And if you have any troubles or anything communicating with them on that, hope you can let us know.
Do you know how we got on the list to begin with? Was it just a Mako thing, or?
I filled out paperwork for
Yeah,
it.
they said all 56 counties
All
signed
56
on, they had to sign
Yeah,
an
all
MOU.
56 counties
Yeah,
did,
you had to.
yeah. So what's the, and I don't really know how what is the other one, the Johansson? What is the other one? We had two of them that we had to sign on for, and they did mention it. I just can't remember right now. Jansen. Yeah. So, I don't know, there's two, I'll go through that email and get everything forwarded on. Not to you, Amy, I'm sorry, I looked at you. No,
If
to
you
Jen
send
and
it to
April.
me, I know where to send it, so
Pass it on.
it is okay with me.
There's one more exciting thing we've done is gotten a bunch of Narcan master trainers in the community, and anybody can get Narcan. Like any facility, honestly, the courthouse should have some. Everybody, hotel, schools. It's just a nasal spray, and go online to the DPHHS website and you can order it. You used to have to go through this whole MOU process and train people and stuff. Now they have like a two-sided flyer because it's very basic. You recognize the signs and you give the Narcan if you suspect that there's an opioid overdose happening. There's no contraindications to it. Nobody's allergic, nothing like that. So that's cool too. So in the
Does
world
the
of
jail have that, or does the jail?
I don't really think anybody does right now.
Okay.
So, the schools are starting to get it in place. This is just a project we're working on with Anna. I don't remember her last. Shrek. With, she works with Western Montana.
She's our new prevention specialist.
Oh, we met her, yes.
Yep.
But so should I have the sheriff or undersheriff contact you so that they can learn about this and get?
Let me touch base with Anna. Because
Okay.
I said, I was hoping that Anna would kind of lead that charge and get it
Sure.
distributed and all that
Okay.
information out there, but it's available. So really, if anybody is wondering, and I mean, you as a citizen could carry it in your pocket, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it
It's so
is.
scary. I mean, I just find it so frightening. But it's good that you say there would be no side effects if you mistakenly thought they were.
I mean, besides somebody waking up really angry, you know, because
Yeah.
it reverses the drug-induced high, so they could be very angry, but you could also save a life, so.
Sure.
You know, it's pretty cool that it's being so,
Yeah,
widely available.
Yes,
Yeah, it's really neat, so expect more on that.
Okay.
And then,
Question
for
on
that,
that.
for this, sure.
Do you have any stats in Mineral County as to the need for Narcan?
I don't exactly. I mean, I would think that would be more of like a sheriff's department. How many law enforcement calls are they getting for drug related things, or maybe hospital visits for drug
I know,
related? I don't
honestly,
have any stats.
the
or anything
numbers
like that.
are not even there for the QRUs, unlike the West End. We've never had a call like that where it was something we needed. Usually it's meth or alcohol.
I know that a lot of things have been starting to be laced with fentanyl, and so this would reverse fentanyl. So who knows what's gonna? I don't know how bad the issue is currently here, or what we're going to start to
It
see.
will reverse the
You know,
fentanyl over?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like prevention though, so you know.
Agreed.
I just don't have any issues. Yeah.
Thanks.
Of course. Thanks for asking. Anything else?
Thank you for
We are
coming in.
locked in for February 24th.
Good. Sounds good. Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Have a great
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for all the work.
You too.
Apparently they're better at packing up than me.
Are you the one in the grocery store, like I am, who holds up the whole line because I gotta put everything in my billfold and get it?
Yes. Where else do you throw it? It goes back where it belongs. You guys have a great weekend. Stay warm.
Goodbye, Amy. Thanks for your patience with this email stuff going on.
So what I'd like to see you do.
DIS, I called yesterday, there are emails that are just flat out.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I
Well,
was now.
to start, I mean, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
Yep, yep, see ya.
Yeah, that ain't bad. I have often said that I'm.
What did he say?
Nobody ever.
I don't know. Oh, that was the DCD.
How do you get any?
Okay, I just want to record
What they
this.
do, Brennan? Oh, I've got Brennan too.
I covered it.
I don't print very well. I don't write very well to begin with, but I print even
I did not
worse.
get to go over payroll this week because it was late and I had so many things to do. I couldn't.
Yeah,
but I can't.
She's got the hog on the
Yeah,
heater
we're-
and she
Yeah,
doesn't have the
but
point
Lord,
the right
so,
way.
because Lord was gonna come in and teach
Yeah,
me
he
how to
could've-
do it, but
He could have done it much
so
sooner.
it was about noon when she got it and I was already making and all this stuff.
I imagine.
Lori, I don't know what I can do.
My coffee's
So
free.
Lori's going to come next Wednesday and use these as a model
All right.
to show me how
Thank
to
you.
do it.
Oh, okay.
But you're doing theirs.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
every time I dealt
Okay.
with it, it's like,
So what do I do today?
like something was off.
That's what I'm saying, so it wasn't just directed.
So, are we hogging that heater or? are we-
You have to shout it out if you.
One of our,
Roman, you need to.
One of our-
You need some heat.
one of our speakers here is complaining that there's ice on the nose.
It's coming your way, buddy. Hold it coming your way.
It almost feels like there's a little breeze. in the front. Oh, yeah, what'd I get it on?
Yeah, it's the 18th.
What was I looking
Yeah,
at?
I know, but I fixed
Oh, I just
that.
looked at the agenda and said,
And so something else you signed in for the 14th, I fixed it.
yeah. Well, because
I know.
And you really want $5 for this?
I do.
Work at your hotel.
Well, I'll refund $450. How about,
Okay.
well, I need money for a pig, so I need
Yeah.
75. Yeah.
Candace, what did he just sign?
He signed the form of welcome to Rivers.
I should record that, and then I'm not gonna scan things anymore. I'll wait for other people, because I do like 3 times. So I'm just gonna tell every department, please scan this back to me.
Yeah,
when
well,
you
they
have
thought we were
signatures.
bad.
But I will record that if you signed it.
I don't know if you want to write that whole title on the top.
Yeah, I got it.
Big title.
Did Jason say, did he agree with that,
You want us to find
Roman?
We should record it, let me look.
it on the dock.
Yeah, you guys want that, I'll double check, because I think none of that counts. Also,
Did your car start okay? Did you let it run for an hour?
No,
before
I
you
did, yes, I did.
This was before.
I did my first.
Hello?
Yes, it's good to go.
Yeah, it did run good today.
I am.
Did your first start? This is just the board.
All right.
Of Health.
Anything?
I put it in the wrong place.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Yeah, up before board of health. So
Is that your granddaughter, boy?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's that same cycle, right? It's hot.
I can just wait to get it out to, once we get it back from the state.
So maybe if Candace is going with that, I'll show it again today, because I think I put that number in, I'm sure that was it. And then we just release it. Like a quick time.
Yeah. You'd like to call just Dwayne Simon?
Oh, no, that's good, no, thank you. Okay, yep, that is now.
Oh, good. I wrote it down already, so I'll get rid of this right away.
Yeah, I was in there looking for a oil filler cap for my 2019.
What did you sign?
Can you pick up?
It's right by you, Dwayne.
Said we missed a place to sign.
Simon's?
Spot in there?
Yeah.
Wayne?
Here, Dwayne signed it, you and I didn't. I didn't see
I didn't see
that.
the tab on
He
it.
must have moved the tab.
I bet you did,
because-
tricky like that.
And he has the wrong date too, again. Oh.
Record it, and then we take 300 off on the court investment. And then they would sell that, they said, house loan to
Well,
build,
we missed
that's
that
fine.
one, then he had to remove the tab.
I saw the other blue tab, though.
No.
Made that extra noticeable.
Oh, yeah, because
I was
he.
gonna go to county.
What's that?
You'll help us with, do you have an?
Oh, yeah.
you have
I got
an-
it.
Okay, I'll pick her up tomorrow. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. After all this time, is your car ready?
Oh, this is called.
Oil filler cap.
I'm picking this up, I'll be right back.
Very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, you represent that panel? Okay.
I'm here for the panel, right?
The interview panel.
The panel. Isn't that it?
Panel.
Le panel. They were French. All of them. Now, there were two people interviewed. The panel was actually kind of a fun interview process. What we did is we worked on some questions beforehand. We go from one of us to the next one of us. He was on Zoom that works with the NRC. Then I get to ask everybody else. So we had two different applicants. They were very different histories, very different education, very different practical stuff. So after a long discussion, a couple of things came to the fore. One, we had one person with a whole lot of experience in resource-based things. So some people would say, is that logging and forestry only? No. There was a lot of discussion about the other things that are alternate resource-based things important for the county, including like ATVs, road openings, hunting recreation, but some of the more modern, I call them Japanese quarter horses. The whole ATV, 4x4, 4x4, side-by-side deal, that, and how the roads matter in those things. And so it was not just a limited breadth of resource use stuff, there was a broader breadth. So the other thing in talking to both of them was, how willing are you to try some of this a bit different way? Instead of just having a collaborative group that goes and talks and tries to make it political or calls the politicians or goes to the Forest Service and does that, what are you willing to do in terms of, are you willing to work on the question to fix the county's growth policy so we have a resource use component that's actually a statement by the county of this is why this stuff matters. And there was an interesting discussion about how willing people are to be progressive that way so it doesn't become just a reason to say, please do this for us. No, this is our policy, this is the reason, this is why. And there was a really good willingness to do that. So after the discussion with the two of them, Willie was really keen on doing that. He'd never done it that way before. That was a totally new thing for him. He's got to be 55, 60, 65, I don't know. But he was willing to take it on that way and try to say, let's try a different route. So the committee, after a long discussion, decided that that was probably the best person for the job at this point in time, because he's got a huge base in what was. He has a willingness to try to preserve part of what was, or cultivate what was, let me put it that way. But he's also got a willingness to look progressively at some things that are new, for perhaps a way to do it and recognize some of the change that recreation has become more important than roads and those things. So that's what the committee decided.
So that there's a selection for Willie.
That was our selection and that was why. But it wasn't just based on this person's been here. The other person was former military planner or whatever else. Didn't have a lot of practical knowledge, a lot of experience, but the real thing was in terms of the forest plan is kicking off now to do the forest planning project. So the other thing that mattered is if they're gonna do that, we need to figure out, can we designate a person to sit with the Forest Service and actually plan? And really was game to look hard at the question of how to do that.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing.
Yeah, I forgot about that coming up.
Well, and that's important because what matters about that, Roman, is instead of doing it as a plan taker, we become part of the plan maker. And that changes the whole playing field. The first county to do that in America was Beaverhead and Madison in 2000. Never had been done before. And the second counties to do that was the Muscle Shell Planning Project, which was Wheatland, Mar, Golden Valley near the basin, Petroleum, and Muscle Shell. The whole Muscle Shell Planning Project did it. And so it worked.
Well, you got Garfield in between the two of them.
It was up there on the top end, yeah. It doesn't fit between it, set up against it, but it did because that being one plan, that didn't fit with. I don't know how to spell it. But those are the guys who did it next, and actually it worked. We haven't even, and the county that did it last was Lincoln. And Lincoln did it with the Kootenai Forest Plan, which is how Lincoln County kept its timber supply for the mills, and guess what? They did it perfectly. Who worked on that was Bruce. Chaz Vincent is the son, he's the legislator, but Bruce Vincent is his dad, and Bruce was the person who did that whole Forest Service and everything. So we have the ability and some horsepower behind it, but Willie was game to do that. So it helps.
Yep, so I do have to say that when I called to offer the position to Willie, he was very clear that he wanted to know who would be under the direction of the commissioners. And he was also very comfortable with the job description that we provided to him. So if there's going to be any changes, he wants to be able to reconsider accepting the position.
And he told me the same thing.
Well, I don't know who else he would do. I mean,
Oh,
it's kind
I
of
don't
like
know,
Andy
Well-
works for us, T-Bone works for us.
So what he told me was, he just didn't want different individuals coming in and telling him, well, you can do this, or we need you to do this. He wants that direction from the commissioners.
Right.
But that's gonna be a big job when he gets going with it. And, you know, I think that the description that we gave him right there fills that position.
Yeah.
And we don't need any add-ons at this time.
Yeah, and you don't.
No.
He was a little surprised the questions I asked him pushed him, but he needed to be pushed. And I finally basically said, if it works so well to not do this, when we requested you do it in 2000, tell me about the success you had saving your lumber mills. And boy, it is a little different way. It's the same stuff, keep your collaborative, keep that project, but get yourself a seat with the Forest Service. Not talking just to them, but see, the other thing is, so you know, as commissioners, we can't do it. Because the meetings that are had by the planning group for the Forest Service are not open to FOIA by federal law. They're exempted in order to encourage a frank discussion of our people. And boy, did that work out really, really well for the counties who did this. Threw our back door away, which is amazing. And they just had to pick it. Willie's like, I think knows everybody. Seems really personable.
He's kind of been doing it already.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so the Lolo Forest is huge. I don't know how many counties are in it. But because of Willie's work, this Mineral County has been the workhorse for all of the timber harvesting in the Lolo. I mean, I think Missoula had one little small one where they did something like 4 million board feet, and we've got millions and millions.
Yes.
And everybody else is riding on our coattails when it comes to the disbursement of the HILT money based on the receipts of the Lolo Forest because of Mineral County. And that's why it didn't make any sense at all that Brinkmeyer closed down the mill when all the logs were coming from this county. And you'd think he would want to have it closer rather than further away from Chilkoot and St. Mary.
I think that's the reason why he went ahead and shut it down, to make sure it wouldn't be another timber mill again.
Right, because it was, they were probably a burr on their side whenever there'd be a
exactly.
bid around here.
It's competition. They
Yeah,
didn't
the
want it.
competition. But anyway, I'm just saying that he does, and, you know, he doesn't, I think he's better than me than that being diplomatic, because I get in those sometimes, Wally, and I start just getting so mad at them, especially when there's some real ultra green people. And he always does a good job of tempering the tone, and I'm going,
Good.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. He doesn't go in there as an adversary. He kind of says it in a way differently than I do that doesn't get their dander up.
I think he's a really good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll make a real difference trying it a little different way.
So I would move that we approve Willie Pack for the resource advisory position in accordance with the provided job description and under the direction of the county commissioners.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second, and for any discussion from anybody? Since this might be on the video, I do want to maybe just make a comment during this period before we cast a vote, but this position is not going to be funded by any, Mineral County doesn't have the money to pay for this. This money is money that comes from the feds. It's called Title III money. And from the feds, we can't use it for anything else. We can't help pay deputies more. We can't pay health insurance. We can't pay anything else. It's only for certain things that are about forest health, forest management, fire reduction, and the strict strings attached to it do allow that we can pay for a county forester to help enhance the forest health management of Mineral County. So we are going to try this for a little bit and see if this helps with grants and if it helps with the new forest plan map and some other things, including wildfire reduction and logging and harvesting. And we just kind of need a spokesman to represent Mineral County, and that's what this job is about. And it's not with regular taxpayer money. It's from a federal funding source that is very limited in its allowance.
The Resource Advisory Committee was established many years back. I was on the committee with many others as a state legislator. We accomplished an awful lot in this county through our Title III money that was coming in. Our Vista Trail.
Right.
That's a different part, though.
That was a different.
That's Title II.
How about the trails that we put up on the St. Regis Back Road?
The Resource Advisory Committee money is a separate pot of money from this.
Oh,
from
it's Title III though,
It's
too.
it's Title II.
Title II, okay, all right.
So, yeah, and then with that Title III money, like Dwayne was commenting when he was first a commissioner, they didn't have any tight restrictions, and you could use it for a lot more things in the county, and now
It's restricted.
it's kind of, so.
Sounds like the same rules as the
Yeah.
other.
So we're gonna give this a shot to see if some other counties are doing this county. I think Lincoln County has one, and maybe Beaver Valley County. But anyway, they're trying it just so that someone can kind of keep a better pulse on what's going on with the Forest Service in terms.
For what it's worth in the history, this was a product of 2000, 2001, and Beaverhead and Madison County did this. And they did it, and the federal rule has a rule that says, in the event the federal government, the BLM, does a plan with the Forest Service, their plan has to consider, do a consistency review, and be consistent with the local plan to the extent possible. So Barrasso from Wyoming, Murkowski from Alaska, listened to the testimony in the Senate hearing about this when we testified on it, and Sherm Anderson from Sun Mountain testified with me on it. And they're the ones who changed the Title III rules to let this get done. So literally, Montana wrote the book on how to get local considered in the process. And this is a product of the fact that 2 other counties in Montana started it. And we're now on the bus, which is great, I reckon.
Yep.
That's superb.
Okay, any further discussion or comment?
Good job.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None? All right. Now the next topic is with the attorney's office, and it is regarding a request for approval to write an objection letter regarding the water compact. The Hellgate Treaty of 1855 water compact?
Not quite. Close, no cigar. seen this one. So the skinny is this, the deadline to file objections to the compact question is December 6th. So we narrowed the playing field down. The issue really is not about is there a compact or not. The issue really is about what is in it. What's the deal? And the questions came up because when the Congress passed the act, if you look at the letter that Lake County sent to the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, there's a whole number of issues in that document. Item 1, it doesn't ratify the compact. It says in the federal act, as modified by this act, the compact's authorized. What were the modifications? Please tell us. Somebody mentioned it. Well, lo and behold, Gaines Tester, GN40 was there then, and the BIA wouldn't call us back and tell us. Then they said, oh yeah, and by the way, we ratify the compact to the extent it's consistent with this act. To that extent. Is it 70% consistent, 82% consistent, 91%? So what the hell is the deal? And of course, nobody will talk to us. Nobody said anything back, nobody will do it. And then to get it passed, they did not have a public hearing. They had 2 people from the BIA testify, the House and Senate did in the hearing, and then they buried it as page like 2,266 of the 2021 for 2021 budget bill. So it is buried in section DD of a 2,000-some page document of the Congress that they passed December 21st of 2020, and the president signed it December 27th. So we went through this and went, wait a second, what's the rest of the deal? Well, then the rest of the deal said things, any amendment to the compacts authorized, ratified, and confirmed to ensure the compact's consistent with the act. What are the proposed amendments? And when they had the head of the BIA testify, if you look at the second page in the letter on the top, it says, ooh, a representative of the Department of Interior indicated that an amendment with CSKT tribes as a red line amendment has been reached. They amended the bill. Show us a copy of the amendment. What is it? Oh, of course, nobody got us that either.
Did you finally get it? Because this letter's from 2020. Have you finally seen that amendment?
No, they never got it to us.
Never, ever.
Ever.
Well, is this a public record when they do this stuff?
It is, but what they did is the Department of Justice went back to the Congressman GN40 and said, look, you tell them there's litigation. So we looked and said, is there any litigation? We checked all the files, Court of Claims, the federal district courts. There was no litigation. So we sent them back a letter and said, look, you're fibbing, there's no litigation, what's the deal? Oh, they said, oh, we're sorry, there might be litigation. So we're not going to.
So that's why they wouldn't reveal the amendment, because they're pending possible litigation?
Yes, because it's possible, Roman, you have it. It was the B word. So it was amazing. Then they also, in that act, specified that the CSKT waives its claims to water, except the CSKT retains all claims regarding the Clean Water Act, and clean water and CERCLA and safe drinking water. So we said, fine, if you want clean water, but what are the claims? How much, what volume, what place of use, what flow rate, where are they? Please tell us. No comment. So basically the claims that we limited it to in terms of what we should file is to straighten the mess out. We want to know what the deal is, number one. The clean water claims matter because there's 2 ways to clean the river up. Do you either A, eliminate the source of the pollutant, or B, do you dilute the pollutant? And if you eliminate the source, what you do is you quit salting the highways, you quit dumping sewage straight in the river, that's fine. But if you don't want to do it that way, shut off anybody taking water out of the river. You say you can't take it anymore. You can't take it out, leave it in, that's dilution. So the fear is, wait a second, if you got a certain point source pollutant that comes out of like the sewage treatment plant in Kalispell, guess what Flathead County had to do? They banned all phosphate detergent in Flathead County. So rather than saying let's dilute what's in Flathead Lake, let's ban the source. So what the water claims do is they give the tribe the choice of saying we can either dilute it or we can shut off the source one way or the other way. But this came out of nowhere. We haven't found the amendments. It's not in the Montana Compact the bill was supposed to do. So our huge thing, the objection's based not on we don't like the compact. We want to know what the deal is and how it's administered. And the other part is like the water for navigation is important to this county because you have all of the Clark Fork River here. And the treaty says with the tribe that the right of navigation is free to all citizens of the United States. So fine, if the tribe has the tribal water right for water in the Clark Fork River, we have the right to use it. And that matters for our boaters and floaters. And I was thinking about Willie's talking to us about recognizing the alternate importance of recreation in this county. So when Willie was applying for the resource coordination question, we went through the question. One of the biggest ones he mentioned too is fishing and floating is a huge business. So since the treaty says there's a free right of navigation, why doesn't the federal law, why doesn't the state compact say acknowledge our right? Because they didn't repeal the treaty, so that's one of our objections is, look, we should be on this too. We're here, we are here, but it's simple, so we're not beating up the tribe. We're just saying, figure out what the hell the deal is, how is it administered, what are the quantities, because this does affect us.
So I have 3 questions.
Sure.
One is, do you have a copy of the objection letter that you're going to send?
I don't have a copy of the plans and finish because I have spent like 3 days working on it steady all day.
Okay.
Just bouncing it, but I'm gonna try to get it finished, a draft of it by tonight or tomorrow. And I'll get it to you, but basically this letter is a pretty good summary of what the objections are, especially this first one. Here's the other thing you should know about that. The federal law said, the state compact, it's in the Montana Code, Title 85, says, the tribe had until July 1st of 2015 with the federal government to file all claims it wanted filed if there were no compact. And remember the tribe told everybody, if you don't have a compact, we're gonna file these claims and you're stuck with all of them in 30 years of litigation. So then, the tribe filed 12,000 claims plus or minus, probably 12,800 or something, July 1st of 2015. And the state law says the tribe.
Were any of those in Mineral County?
Yes.
They filed some claims on water in Mineral County?
Oh, yes.
In the river, or are you talking about individual?
Creeks and the river. Yeah, well, all over the place.
Do we have a list of those?
I don't have a list because I asked them to get me a list and nobody's printed the whole list yet. I asked to get it by source name because that was easier than section, township, and land range, and I haven't got it. But as you look at where they filed on the map, I have a copy of that I gave you yesterday. 2/3 of the state of Montana is green. And it's in all those places, and we're right in the middle of the green, ladies and gentlemen. We have lots of green in our county. So they did that, but see, the thing was this, I don't care that they filed them, what I cared about is, wait a minute. If the federal government, by saying, we ratify this as amended, if that doesn't ratify the compact, the tribe doesn't withdraw those claims. So what the tribe gets is the 12,000 claims, plus the stuff in the compact, plus the clean water in the federal bill. So instead of getting just the stuff that's in the compact, which was, quote, the original deal, they get the deal, plus the water quality claims, plus they get the 12,800 claims that they filed before July 1st of 2015. And that was not the arrangement, but that's what happens. So that's the reason for the question. And that affects us directly in the sense of, also they changed the law of administration. The rule is first in time, first in life. So if the St. Regis River, somebody has a water right of 1880, and somebody upstream uses too much water, the guy with the 1880 right can shut down the guys upstream if he's days before. The guy upstream is 1885, the 1880 right shuts him down. The guy upstream's 1890, the 1880 date shuts him down. But the tribe said, oh, we're being generous in the state law, we're gonna give up calling water claims less than 100 gallons a minute. So, that means all the tribe's gonna call is agricultural rights that are 100 gallons a minute or more. So here's what it does to like Dingley Logie is my poster child right now. So if the tribe wants more water down the Clark Fork River, we're not gonna call little people. Dwayne with 7 gallons a minute won't get called. Roman with 50 gallons a minute won't get called. I don't care what your date is. If your date's 1890, 1875, Dinley's 1870 water right gets called by the tribe, and then for Dinley to turn back on, guess what he has to do? He then has to be the bad guy who shuts the other dates off.
So by what mechanism would he do that?
I've
been wondering about
that. The water court appoints a water commissioner, and the water commissioner goes out and shuts them off by court order. Pull the head gate, lock it shut, there's a padlock.
Okay, him, but how, what?
The same way to him. What he does is he gets the water commissioners to go out and shut down everybody else's head gates or shut off their wells. He has to do that. They do it right now. That was the hearing I was in court Monday.
They shut down house wells, really?
Yeah.
What, a state water commissioner?
Yeah.
We don't have a county water commissioner.
No, the district court appoints them. So every county can get one. The district court appoints the person to be the water commissioner.
You gotta be awful busy then.
They will be, you're right, if they do it. But the unfairness isn't to me they're busy. The unfair part is, wait a second. The tribe says, we're not gonna call all these other people, so who becomes the bad guy is who the tribe shuts off. So they shut off Benway, or they shut off me. And then, when I have to turn my ditch back on, is I have to shut off all the other people below me. They could shut you off rolling at the ranch at the farm. When they shut you off there, the only way you get water back is you have to shut off the people upstream that have a greater priority date than you. So you're the bad guy who shut off your neighbors, but the tribe gets the water that you have, that they get to keep. Now you shut the neighbors off instead of them. So it just changes the whole appearance of how it works. I'm not gonna steal your car, I'm gonna have my neighbor do it. That's what it boils down to. I hate to put it that bluntly.
If the neighbor doesn't get shot, doesn't it?
Right? But Gordon worked on this from the beginning, and this is not about don't have a compact. The compact was a good idea. The problem is in the process of getting there, we have screwed it up so badly, I can't believe it. So Gordon worked on it when he was in the legislature years ago. So I asked him to come and say a word about what his thoughts were with it, if you guys don't mind.
My thoughts are kind of, as a citizen now, but as the back legislator, it was very controversial about many issues that were taking place. And the Heritage Bill at that time was taking place too, so there was many different avenues that were coming in. And I worked with Senator Carol Juneau on this water compact, and we decided that the issues hadn't been solved or resolved, and we needed to work harder on it, get more people involved. So we put a stay on it, and to cool heads down, get them to rethink their processes and bring them back in, so everybody had a little piece of the pie in there and their voice was heard. And that was my main concern, was to make sure everybody was heard, because the first water rights issues, boy, I'll tell you what, they say whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting, and that's the truth. It really was. And we had so many battles going on. The Water Quality Control Board was in there. They were fighting, and the first water rights people finally got to be heard in there. And that's when the issues started breaking up, and then the House decided to go ahead with the process to stop it for a while and let the cooler heads prevail.
So I have a question, given that history and what I've looked up and tried to read, because it's a very convoluted thing
It's a
going on here with
complicated
this one.
question.
But
yeah.
so, what I want to know is, are there any political consequences either way? If we do sign the objection letter, or if we don't sign the objection letter? Is there any consequence to us that could hurt us?
Yeah. There are
Either
lots
way,
of them.
both ways.
No, actually, here's the problem. If you don't object, you don't get the questions answered. You don't get to deal with the issue of changing how they administer. You don't get the question of what were the amendments, what are the water quality claims, the rest. You get no answers. And if you don't object, you have no standing in the Court of Claims later. So when it says clearly in the DNRC's letter to everybody, if you want to play, you have to object, and if you don't play, you have no later remedy, no later objection, no nothing, and that's the end of it. So consequence number one is if you don't, you don't fix the stuff that's a question. I want to know really what are the clean water claims? Where are they? How much of them affect the Clark Fork? That's the question. But if you don't know, you don't find out till somebody says, you can't be treating wastewater at the Alberton Sewage Treatment Plant because it leaks down to the gravel in the river. Shut the plant down. That's when you find out. Well, we appealed that question. No, you can't. You didn't appeal and ask the question when we reviewed the compact. Sorry, it's over. So the consequence of not playing and asking the questions is you get stuck with the answer which you may not like. But the advantage of it is the water court has a chance to look at it and decide in its administration or the claims themselves if there are mistakes. They talk about graft, corruption, dishonesty, whatever else. I'm like, wait a second. I'm not really alleging anybody was dishonest. I think the people really didn't know. I think when Danes did the bill and the rest of them did it, they didn't think about the issue of what it was. They never appropriated water. They've never been a water court. They've never done it. The problem is if we don't ask, we're going to be stuck with what the consequence is. And the big things are who owns the water that's in the river that we can float on, because we have a right of navigation that we should get to use. We have a right to free access to water we should get to use. Also, the right the tribe wants, which is 5,000 cubic feet per minute at Cabinet Gorge Dam. And there's one at Tura, there's one here. Those rights are for fisheries and riparian improvement. But the treaty says the tribe has the right to fish off the reservation in common with the other citizens of the territory. We are citizens. So if we object to the question of saying, we don't mind the water for riparian, we mind the fact you're giving it to one party when we have the same right that party does, we should have an interest in that water too, because their tribe's right to fish is in common with us. That's what the deal said. And we don't want to change the deal. So the treaty controls the bus, but what happened is the people who cut the deal never read it. They didn't know. Nobody thought it through. Nobody really figured it out. So the only way to really, we tried everything. I had a stack of letter and this thick in St. Regis the other night. Lake County wrote to James, Gianforte, Chester, all of them. And we're about as popular as Bastard Children in the Family Reunion, put it bluntly. They hate the fact. So even in Denver,
They meaning.
Chester, Danes, and Gianforte.
Well, you think that, I remember this has been going on a long time, and they had all kinds of meetings in Lake County. So maybe an individual like Chester or somebody doesn't understand it, but they had plenty of time to get their expertise people to analyze all these fine minutiae of the words. What happened after all those meetings in Lake County? You were up there then.
I was, and I did all the work on it. They refused to answer, and they still won't. So when the Resource Advisory Council for this county had them on the internet the other day, they asked the questions of Danes' people, Chester's people. So really, what did we ratify? What is this getting? They asked this question, and they said, we'll get back to you in 2 weeks or less. And guess what? When they got back to Ms. Young about this 2 days ago, they had 2 responses. Here are some stream flows in the river that were measured before. That doesn't answer the question of did you ratify the compact or not. But they also said, just don't do anything. Wally ruffled a lot of feathers with over this the last 3 or 4 years. Just let it go. Don't do anything with it. Well, fine and dandy if you want to let it go, but the limit is the minute you let it go, what happens is if it gets passed, all those unforeseen consequences land right in our lap. And those are some of them very harsh. Very, very, very harsh. And so my thought is the reason Chester, Gianforte's people, now Rosendale's and Danes don't answer it is they either don't have the answer or they really don't want to tell us what the answer was when we asked the question.
Why would they sell us out if it was really going to hurt all of us? I can't imagine why they...
It was the money. Let me ask you this question. How does a U.S. Senator have $157 million to run for office for a job that pays $360,000 a year plus health insurance for 6 years? The $2 million job for the 6 years, and he's got $157 million to run for the job. There's your answer.
I got a question for you. Is it okay?
Yeah, you bet. We're open.
When we were working with that compact before, it also contained an awful lot of the personal wells that people have, the first water rights on their farms, on their wells, and the towns, because towns have incorporated towns have the first water rights in there. How is this going to affect, is it still considered in the bill itself?
Nope.
Good.
Here's what they did. No, it affects all of them. Here's the problem. The tribe said they can only draw groundwater if it's more than 100 gallons a minute for agriculture. So the same thing like in the stream, if your well is next to the river, and you pump your well, it pulls the river or the creek down. The tribe, for an issue of water quality or the flow rate down at Cabinet Gorge or wherever, can shut the well off, because it's for agriculture more than 100 GPM. But for that person then to pump their well, they have to go to their neighbors around them and shut them off. So pumping this well doesn't screw up the water in the river. So what he did is he substituted the water he took from here and got it from here instead. So that affects all of them, which is definitely there. And that's buried very quickly. The tragedy that was bigger was this: there was 95,000 acre-feet of water from Hungry Horse Dam in the original document for supplements for municipal use. So the thought was, well, as places down the river, along the river need water, whether it's Missoula, Superior, Thompson Falls, Wintercare, where do they get the water? The original bill said, yeah, they get it with stored water in Hungry Horse. We can offset the water with that, and we'll do that with an offset. And then when we get to the final compact bill, it says, oh, there's 11,000 acre-feet of water in Hungry Horse for that, and nothing more. And by the way, that water is given to the tribe for municipal supplement, and the people paying the tribe for that water will pay them $40 an acre-foot for that water per year, indexed to July 1st, 2015. So if you need more water in Superior from the well, what you end up having to do, if it's affecting the river level at all, is you have to pay $40 an acre-foot to the tribe to let water out of Hungry Horse Dam to supplement the water in the Flathead River, and the tribe lets you have part of the tribal water right for water quality out of the Clark Fork to pump out of the well in Superior. And it's $40 an acre-foot, and it's indexed to July 1st, 2015 with inflation on top of it. And that was a total change of the original deal, Gordon, you're asking about. Because what you're talking about was well thought out. Cities are gonna grow, more people are gonna move here, we need the water. And then all of a sudden it just went poof. And that we can't change, because that's not an objection regarding the water, that's not an objection regarding its administration. But the real question is, what is the water? What is consistent with the act? The Secretary is authorized to execute the compact to the extent that the compact does not conflict with this act. Well, what extent is that? And nobody will tell us. Deb Haaland's office won't tell us. Chester, Baines, nobody. But the water court can push the question and ask it. And we may not be popular for asking, but if we ask, we're finally going to get the answer, and that'll tell us what we have.
So can there be negative consequences to us signing the objection letter?
I don't really think of any. The only negative side is this: you put some time in it, and people politically think you're bad guys because you ask the question nobody wants to answer. It's politics. And it's, why does it take 2 weeks to not get an answer from the politicians to the Resource Advisory Council? All they tell Monty Turner is, Wally ruffled a lot of feathers with this, just let it go. What that tells me is I found the string on the side of Barbie's neck, and I pulled the string out, and I've been pulling it for a long time, and they don't want to provide the answers because they don't want us to know. And in fairness, I think we need to. That's my sentiment. And I personally will tell you this: I own the second water right on the Clark Fork River, and it's way over 100 gallons a minute. The ditch is as big as this room, damn near.
What other counties have signed a similar request letter?
Sanders is going to sign it. Lake County was going to sign it. I don't know if they're going to do it. Lincoln hired a lawyer in Kalispell to do theirs. Theirs gets filed next week. I think Flathead County has Bruce Frederickson in Kalispell working on theirs. He called me Tuesday and Wednesday to get the stuff on the bigger objection periods because nobody else worked on this for 5 years except me. And the other thing that was more interesting is when they passed the federal law that said, let's do this, I had Deb look for it last night because I have the law, it's Senate Bill 3019, but it doesn't say, it's like, Roman knows how the numbers work, like Montana Code Attitude is MCA 80-4-213. So the Fed is USC and US Code 43-227. So I said, I've got all these references to page 7 of the bill, to page paragraph Article 5D. What's the federal citation? So I had Bruce Frederickson go to work on it, and I asked him to find it, and I asked Deb to find it. She worked till like 6:30 last night for 2 hours. And guess what? It was signed by the president, and it's the law, but none of us can find it in the U.S. Code, anywhere. So now not only do we not know what the answers are, we also can't find the damn law that did it in the U.S. Code system.
So now there's a deadline for comment.
Of December 6th.
To do what? If we can't even find anything.
To object.
We don't even know what we're objecting to.
You're right, that's my point. So part of the point is to say, we're objecting to the text of what was passed by the president based on what we have, but we can't even find it in the U.S. Code itself. However, based on the bill that was passed and signed, these are the objections and this is why. And there's 3 sets of claims to object to. Because the bill was supposed to result in dismissal of the 12,000 claims, plus or minus some, we object to those, we object to the clean water claims, et cetera, until they're quantified, until we're told where they are and what they are. And we object to the tribal water right until the compact is passed.
And so you're not even done with your own letter, right?
Nope.
So, do you think, well, since December 7th, maybe we could even see what the other counties came up with and just to.
What I'll tell
compare
you
notes.
honestly is, I don't think the other counties are gonna finish until I give them my draft. I don't think they will, because nobody did the work on this at
They
all.
said somebody hired a highfalutin lawyer to do theirs.
They did. There's also a company that hired Holland and Hart out of Denver to write theirs, and they're not done for $1,100 an hour. They're not even close right now. So the truth is, I got a lot of it done because I worked on it. This letter is why I gave you this one. This is the template. It really asks the questions. And this is not about the land trade. This is not about taxation. This is purely about the water. And we copied the quote from the BIA. It's on the second page, paragraph 3. The department indicated an amendment with CSKT tribes as a red line amendment has been reached, which they passed. What is it? Tell us. And I think all the water court needs to know is we asked the question. We objected because nobody will tell us. And it's only fair in terms of water. We have to know a volume, a flow rate, a point of diversion, a place of use.
So the Senate bill was passed, Senate Bill 3019 was passed in 2020.
December 21st of 2020, and it was signed by President Trump on December 27th of 2020.
And even though it's 2 years old, it still has a caveat that counties can still object at this point in time.
Yes, because that ratified Montana's compact, but Montana's bill was passed in 15 and codified. And that's what set the December 6th date. For the December 6th thing to happen, what the tribe, the state, and the feds had to do was a motion that said, we want a preliminary decree to get this thing finally reviewed by the water court and approved. And so that's what's created the December 6th date moment, is that we had
It was the
years-
Montana legislature passing it in 2015.
Right, and that's.
And why didn't all these questions come up to those folks with their expertise?
Because we asked them as well, we even asked Tim Fox, who was the AG when this whole thing started, and they had no answers, and they said, we don't know what's the federal law. So what was required is the state had to ratify the compact, part 1, 2, the tribe had to ratify the compact, and then 3, the Fed had to ratify the compact. But the federal bill that ratified is this bill, which raised all these questions. The state compact did not give the tribe water quality claims. But the federal one does. And nobody at the state knows what they are. Nobody at the state has the numbers either. But politically, it's been a hard thing for them to ask. And Gianforte will not even speak over the question of the questions we pushed him and his staff on over this thing. And neither would Daines. He has not been to visit Lake County since the last round of this went down in January of 2021. And Catlett won't go visit Lake County either because they are so mad that we asked the questions and said, tell us what it is, and nobody will tell us.
Okay, well, so for the interest of time,
Yeah.
Today you just want.
So what I'd say is, I think what I need to do is finish the objection letters, but I need to, based on what's in this, that's what they're based on, and then basically get them to you guys like the
25th?
25th, 26th right there to get them signed.
But I have a question for you,
Yeah.
because the 25th is a Friday, 26th is a Saturday, so if we did it on the 2nd of December, you're driving this letter to
Yeah, I'm gonna
its
drive
destination?
I'm gonna drive these letters December 5th to Bozeman to file them, because I don't trust them.
Okay,
They
so
have to be
we-
filed by 5 o'clock December 6th.
So we would have until
And Bozeman is the
December
water
7th.
course.
Oh. Yeah, will that work, December 2?
December 2 would work fine. I'm gonna be at the rest of the county attorneys convention, but I can call. And I will call, for sure. I'll call you guys, but you'll have a copy to look at before.
We'll have a copy.
The second would be great. But I think if you don't do it, I don't care about who gets ticked off, but I'm not elected either. So that's what doesn't matter to me, but what I care about is the stuff on the river, the fish, and the rest of it matters a lot for agriculture. You look at the egg producers you have left that take more than 100 gallons a minute, This bill potentially shuts down every one of them if the tribe calls the water. And then every one of them has to call their neighbors. This is like Morgan's and Dry Creek, this is Denley Woggy, all those people. You have Donnellys who are down on the river up there, that affects them, Browns who are down there, Hollenbeck's place, all of those people, but because their water rights are bigger, they're the target to shut down. And you're gonna take all of them if this passes without the question getting answered. What is the deal? Okay. And we're not saying we don't like the tribe, we're not saying we don't like the compact. All we're saying is, tell us what the deal is.
Okay, so today we're just authorizing you to write a letter, then on December 2nd, we'll look at it, see if we in fact want to sign our signature to it and send it on.
Question. Wally, in your letter, you're gonna take the objectives and put it into one letter, or are you gonna separate each objective?
There's 14 different objections.
Yes, and that's.
So that was a conversation Deb and I had yesterday after talking to the lawyers at Kalispell and one at Wheatland County, because the problem is you're supposed to object independently, but if I leave all the objections regarding the language in one objection, it's easier for the water court to say, oh no, we don't honor that objection. But there's 4 problems in the bill with the language. What's consistent? What's the amendment? What's modified? So there's one regarding that sentence, one regarding the next. So each of those is separate. So there's actually, I think, 14 total objections that'll be in the letter. But the reason, and Deb or I can sign it for the county, but I think in the other part, it's better sort of if the commissioners sign it, because who it really makes a difference for is all the taxpayers in the county. And county revenue, incredible. And I'm not making it complicated, I'm just saying to you is I think if we put it in one package and say, here it is, the chances of getting a no go up a whole lot more. That's my thought. And Lincoln's is different, so you know, theirs is the Kootenai River, granted, so they have a whole different deal there than we do. But they're objecting over that one, so that's why they're doing it in a different way. They're doing the same thing we are, but it's a different drainage, different river. Ours is not the Flathead.
Why isn't Lake County buying into it? My question.
Lake County did buy into it, and Lake County wanted to file it.
They said that they weren't gonna.
They're not going to, because the letter Gail Decker sent back to Rick Jor said, we don't have anybody who can write it, we don't have anybody who knows how to do it, we don't have anybody who's appeared in water court, and we think the other counties that are filing will raise the questions that we'd be raising anyway, and so we don't want to do it again because they've already done it. Here's the other thing. Lake County is the only county to file a notice of intent to appear when this came down in 2018. And an NIA says, when the issues are there, you don't have to raise the issue yourself, but you have the right to play regarding that issue. So what I did for Lake County in 2018, I filed a notice of intent to appear that said, you guys want to reserve the right to play. So we reserve the right to play for that county.
So they can object at any time.
They can't object, but if we object, they can sign on to our objections and help. That's what I'm saying, Dwight. So we guide the bus. This is like the Forest Service deal. Do we make the plan or we take the plan? And Lake County as an NIA party is taking whatever other people object to. And I don't think they'll appear in the Kootenai stuff for Lincoln County, but they will probably decide they better get on board regarding the questions that we raise, because the questions that we basically have to raise, we're not raising any on reservation questions because we're not on the reservation. They will, they could, but we're not the reservation, they are. That's their issue, not ours. Ours is the other. Sorry it's complicated, but it's straight ahead when you look at it literally and say, what is the deal? We ratify as modified. What's modified? Sorry. I know what it is on an engine, and so does Gordon. But
Sure do.
So if you're game to do it that way, I am game, and I will have you draft well before the 2nd to go through and give us changes. And I'm also going to bounce it around 3 or 4 other attorneys to have them look at it and see what it says. So we get enough feedback to do it right, because this is a huge, huge deal. We have a whole lot of miles in the Clark Fork River, believe me. And Fish Creek, and the St. Regis, and the rest.
So I do have you in the calendar for December 2nd,
Good.
an action item.
Good.
So we'll revisit it then.
Good. Anything you want to add, Deb, to the discussion? Because she understands that this is complicated, but she also understands it's a huge deal.
I understand it's complicated too.
We
all feel alike.
I'm not a lawyer.
But you know what, I mean, what is the downfall of asking the questions to convey knowledge to people? I see none.
That doesn't seem very challenging to me.
I see none. You know, to me, what I see on the horizon, of course, I'm
And I
coming.
think those words should be in the letter, because that's precisely, if we send this off, we're not really challenging or trying to be, or did you say they call you ruffling the feathers? We're just asking for them to convey,
Right.
communicate what's going on with the missing parts, the amendment and other things.
And for me, on the horizon, I see the wild, wild west. We're gonna be fighting over water. That's people's lives that we're talking about. And around here, there's a lot of people.
Well,
that are
Gordon
gonna
said
be
you could
affected.
still water the crops with whiskey, they don't fight over that.
I thought about that, I did bring that up there. In one of my bills, I said, you know, I found it rather hard to pass a water bill around here, so I'm just gonna, next bill's gonna be pass the whiskey, and they agree.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
In response to that, Gordon must have grew up somewhere else than I did, because in St. Regis, you do fight over whiskey.
That's probably true.
West
Well, you
End
fight
too.
because of whiskey.
Yes, Robert. Let's not dirty the water.
With the whiskey.
I don't need any more cases, that's what I'm saying.
So you are playing how this works. Here's the thing. We file the objection to the water rights. It says, we object to this administration portion. And there's this why we object. And if they solve the problem, we withdraw the objection. So
Very good.
That's the way you get in the system. But if you don't object, you don't have any way to go. So we, at any time, if they can answer the questions and say, we did ratify it, we can pull out. But if we don't get in, we're done.
Okay, well, Wally's gonna write a letter.
Thanks,
We'll
yeah.
amend that, and now we'll go on to public comment, because we're late on that. So anybody have any public comment while we're on here?
Is this the only public comment, or are you gonna have public comment after everything else today?
No, we usually have it just at 11:30, but we're very late. So this is the time for public comment from now until you're done, and then we'll go grab something quick to eat and come back at 1.
I had a quick question. I see that your HR position is once again open. No, yes?
It is, it is.
Is it, do you have a posting for it? Because it's not on the board.
No, it's not on the board yet because we have some discussion about it to come up. I want to work with it to make it really desirable, so I need to discuss with the commissioners.
So in the meantime, you're still doing
I
that
am
job?
still filling, yep,
Both shoes.
yep,
You should have 4 feet.
which I do.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
I also have a question of the commissioners. I am not asking this because I'm not asking this because I want an opinion from Wally or I want Deb's justification. I want to hear from the commissioners how the liability of a volunteer in the county attorney's office is looked at from you guys, because you're the HR.
As HR, I can speak to that. I don't have any problem with a volunteer in the county attorney's office. Volunteers in any sensitive area do sign a confidentiality agreement. We have a lot of departments. The sheriff's department has a volunteer. We have Gordon here who does volunteers in the sheriff's department. And there are times when we need to rely on people with expertise to come into our offices and help.
I understand that, and that's why I wanted the commissioner's view, because I'm not trying to start an argument over anything else. I'm just trying to get clarity for the public.
Yeah.
This late?
She said she was going to.
No, I don't.
Quick ring.
As a commissioner, I second that opinion. I don't know how the other two feel.
Well said. We can use all the volunteers.
Thank you for the info. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Hi,
and I've seen you around. I'm sorry, what's your name?
it's Maura Johnson.
Maura Johnson.
And, yeah, you've seen me around recently because I've recently moved here full-time, although we've had a house here for a long time. I'm a new member on the Fair Board,
Oh, good.
of which there's hardly anybody left, and you guys need to know that.
We do know that.
The long-term people that have been on the Fair Board you know, Carol Johnson left and multiple people left, including another newer person from St. Regis, Olivia.
Yep, we have those resignations.
Right. So being left there and not knowing a lot of people here because I'm relatively new, you can't leave me alone on the fair board. You need to.
You don't want to be the only one?
I can't possibly do it. I
I'm
don't
just-
have
yeah,
the
I'm just-
history, I don't have any of that. And so I actually wanted to come and just appeal to you to even let me or Mary Jo know people that might be interested, people you would recommend. Because I think people answering an ad in the newspaper that was out there is not a very good way to invite people. In other words, I'd be happy to go to people and say, would you be interested, all that type of thing. But I haven't been here long enough to know who those people are. So that's, and the other thing is, I'd like to see more people involved, not from Superior. From a broader range of area. Because right now it's pretty.
Have you posted on Facebook? Because it is the Fair Board's responsibility. And so I think, is it on Facebook?
No, that would involve me knowing how to do that.
I feel your pain, girl.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
And one of the people that was really good at that, Olivia, she's one of the ones that resigned. The ad was posted in the newspaper.
Yes, it is. It's a very nice big ad.
Anyhow, but I work on finding somebody to do it on Facebook or that kind
Yes,
of thing.
I think
But
that's a good idea.
I'm actually just looking for suggestions. I'd certainly love to have somebody involved in 4-H on the board, that kind of thing. So there's people you know.
So you're down 2 or 3?
You have Brittany Hotray?
Huh?
You have Brittany?
Yeah, Brittany.
So she would be a good one to ask about Facebook also. Being a young
Yeah.
person, she'd be good.
And Mary Jo knows everybody.
Yeah, Mary Jo Berry knows everyone.
Everybody.
Mary Jo has told me that she's asked people in the past and had trouble getting people on the board. So I just looking for ways to.
Or I'll try to, I'm from the east end, and I'll try to think of some people that maybe, like you talk about the Superior thing, I think a lot of people just assume, well, Superior's the county seat, and people down there, or they know more what's going on than I do down here, and so, but I'll see if there's somebody that I can think of, or talk to somebody.
Okay, I don't want to take any more of your time, but I just wanted to raise the issue
You can
and
take as long
have
as you
people
want.
think about
Yeah.
if there are people out there.
Through the, might help you a little bit, through the years and years of volunteering, is that for all the different organizations, the main concern we had was getting people to be involved. And so with the fire department, the ambulance, search and rescue, all these different individual entities that serve the people, it's getting the young people involved. If you take a look at our color guard, recently, last year we had, and color guard is actually really lacking. I mean, the gentlemen are getting to the elderly stage beyond, and we're not getting the young people coming in.
And that's a really good point. You know, we have a lot of young people in our building. You might want to just cruise the hallways and go into the departments where you see
Yes.
young people and see if you can get them.
I'm recruiting, but it's the follow through.
It's hard to resist
Yeah.
Gordon Hendrick once he pins you for
They
for
see
some
me in it.
volunteering. But more for you too. I mean, we've got young people in our offices that are Mineral County residents. That might be a good place to start.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
And most of them are involved in 4-H because they have children.
and they're a captive audience, they can't run from it.
Yeah, they can't run. They're locked in their offices.
You know, and I do know the issue is too, that when you've got the kids in 4-H, I've got grandkids in 4-H and stuff, you don't have a whole lot of extra
No, you're
time
busy.
Oh, yeah.
to do anything else, so it is hard to get people, especially when the kids are still at home.
Well, I want, on the heels of that, thank you for being on the board. 'Cause
Yeah.
We do, like you just said, we have a hard time with people generating the interest and the energy for, some of those boards don't meet a whole lot, but, but at the fair time, you get darn right busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I heard Wally Cogden volunteer.
Yeah, with all your time, Wally.
And Laura, I was just invited.
He's got
to
cows
the
and
board
stuff.
meetings. It's on
He
the
know what to
calendar
do.
for the
I've
30th.
got Wally pinned on a project right now that he
Yeah.
can't get away
I'm
from.
gonna start coming to those as well. If you'd like me to reach out to
Yeah.
Brittany about Facebook and
We
her
did.
reaching out
I
to
gotta
you,
get those
I would be
cars
happy to
sold.
do that.
Okay.
Selling cars, selling motorcycles.
Thanks for volunteering in the sheriff's office with that, yeah?
Yeah.
Selling
I didn't know I was gonna
motorcycles.
be hanging
Yeah,
myself.
we're selling it, great, it's great.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, any other public comment? All right, with that, I guess we'll go eat, get something to eat, and come back. Oh, that's right, got so far behind, forgot the fun thing.
And you do have them?
Yeah.
Okay, and when you do the funds, you have to read each fund individual.
Okay. So at the end of the year, typically, well, historically, the sheriff's office, whether he's from the beginning of time, always tends to not quite have enough money, so we have to do some transfers. So some of these transfer funds, whereas the following was not formally adopted as part of the fiscal year 22 operating budget for Mineral County, and whereas the revenue supporting the said budget expenditure is not from tax money to be levied on Mineral County, but rather received from some other source as mentioned, and whereas for purposes of total disclosure, these expenditures should be included in the formal fiscal year 22 operating budget and fiscal year 22 revenue estimates for Mineral County. So what we're going to do here, we have to make some budget amendments and transfer we're going to take some money from the Public Safety Fund, which is the Sheriff's Office, and put it into the Community Service Corner Burial Program, which helps to pay for indigent people and sometimes maybe even the veteran, who we have to help pay for that. But it's the Community Service Corner Burial in the amount of $1,578.45. And then we'll be taking the detention center made money. It's been running quite smoothly, and they have an excess amount of revenue. So we are taking $80,000 from the detention center fund and putting it into the Sheriff's Office Public Safety Fund to help for their overage with their expenses in the Sheriff's Office. So thank you, Detention Center. The other fund is the PILT. We are going to have to borrow or move $4,410 from PILT into the Comprehensive Insurance Fund. Again, from PILT, Public Safety, the Sheriff's Office is over budget with overtime and other expenditures, and they need, so from PILT, $340,000 into the Public Safety Fund. And then the PERS and the SRS retirement, so that's the Public Employees Retirement System that state and county governments have for all their employees. We need to borrow from PILT $184,000, $910.92 from PILT and transfer that into the PERS Retirement Program Fund. And then finally, the permissive medical levy is short, and PILT will be used from that to go into the permissive medical levy fund for $22,203.62. So the total transfer amount is $633,103.84 from those funds into those other funds that I just got done reciting.
I would make a motion to approve those transfers.
Okay, we have a motion.
I second.
Motion and a second. All in, any discussion or question? Yeah.
Where's my TV board money?
You spent it.
I've been after that for how long, guys? Come on, you're killing me.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
That was a good try, though.
Hey, you know, I'm always trying to get that developed a little bit better because that is part of our emergency broadcasting system.
It's always an emergency, right?
Amen, brother. It's always an emergency. That's right.
And then we have this resolution that's basically amending the budgets that are not, they're like the grants from the health department, Healthy Montana Family, the child care grant, workforce grant, immunization grant, crime victim advocate grant. So this is a resolution to disclose those expenditure amounts from these grants into our Mineral County Treasury. So the resolution number is 11-18-2022. And those total $1,446,513.31. Federal grant that Mineral County receives for primarily health department, vaccines, and the crime victim advocate, etc. All available if you want to look at it, but it's basically a resolution talking about this revenue is not from taxpayer money, it is from federal funding sources to provide these grants to keep running for the fiscal year 2022.
I make a motion to approve resolution 11-18-2022 from federal funding to do what?
Fund those grants.
Oh, to fund those grants mentioned for fiscal year 2021-22?
Yeah, fiscal year 22.
Fiscal year 22.
Okay, any questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I said.
Aye. Oh. Okay,
I was
there's
slow
a
on,
second.
sir.
Okay. All in favor, say aye after that.
You guys are optimistic for me. If I live long enough, I might get some of my PERS money back. Is that what you're telling me?
Maybe.
I think persistence is the key.
Yeah. I could drop by the time I'm 75 or 80 off for 5 minutes.
Juliet, I wanted to explain, is the camera still going?
Yeah.
Oh.
Are you guys adjourned, or is it
Yeah.
regarding the question I
We'll
asked?
be back at 1 o'clock.
I wanted to.
Oh, we typically do this, right? Nobody here. Okay, the Mineral County unofficial, we're making them official today.
Correct.
Result of the federal general November 8, 22 election. The U.S. representative spot between John Lamb, Trinnell, and Zizi. Precinct number 22, and I'm going to try to top, so I'm asking again. That 22 is Alberton. 24 is
A small portion of Superior,
okay. 25.
west of River Street,
Okay. 26.
St. Regis,
27.
West End,
And 30.
east of River Street to like Fish Creek.
Okay. All right. So John Lamb and Alberton received 17 votes. Superior, the small one, 15. West Superior, 16. St. Regis, 41 votes. West End, 25 votes. Superior to Fish Creek, 32. So John Lamb received a total of 146 votes. Monica Trinnell, Alberton, 138. Small Superior, 50 votes. West Superior, 108. St. Regis, 93. West End, 21. East Superior, Fish Creek, 170 votes. She received a total of 580. Ryan Zinke, Alberton, 213. Superior, 104. West Superior, 312. Regis, 281. West End, 130. East Superior, 418. He received a total of 1,458 votes. Supreme Court Justice number 1, between Bill Dalton and Jim Rice. Bill Dalton received a total, unless somebody wants to know the precincts for the judges. Bill Dalton received a total of 476 votes, Jim Rice 1,334 votes. Supreme Court Justice number 2, between James Brown and Ingrid Gustafson. James Brown received 1,207 votes in Mineral County, and Ingrid Gustafson received 846 votes. District Court Judge, they come out of Missoula, District 4. They visit us occasionally. Jason Marks, to retain him, yes, 1,481. People that said no, 383. State Rep Denley Logie, unopposed. He won with 1,857 votes. I was unopposed. I received 1,710 votes. Kellam McLeese, she was unopposed, received 1,880 votes. Sheriff Corner, Ryan Funk, received 1,221 votes to Gretchen Webb's 926. Was that a late provisional one on that one, or? I thought it was 925 for some reason.
Yeah, we had some provisionals.
Oh, okay. Deborah Jackson, County Attorney, unopposed, 1,601 votes. Mary Mueller, the County Treasurer, Mineral County, unopposed, 1,787 votes. Justice of the Peace, nonpartisan, Kim Tarrant, unopposed, 1,721 votes. Constitutional Amendment number 48, those in favor, 1,729. Those who voted no, 364. The legislative referendum number 131, yes votes 1,288, no votes 814. The marijuana tax on the medical marijuana, people that were for taxing medical marijuana, 1,163. Those against, 975. The marijuana tax for non-medical, in other words, recreational, those for it were 1,558. Those against it were 594. Very good. Your crew had a good time? Everybody stayed up?
Yes, they did so good. I was so happy. They did an awesome job.
Good.
And then we did our post-election audit, and that was perfect.
Which precinct ended up being the random one selected?
30, our biggest one.
Yeah, the biggest one.
Yeah, they always, it is random. I mean, we watched it on the Secretary of State, and they literally will roll a dice, but 30 just seems to always just want to come up. It was good. So they have a hand count there if you guys want to look at it. They had to hand count 3 races.
How long did that take them, by the way?
2.5 hours.
For about 420 votes, something like that?
No, precinct 30.
Oh.
No, precinct 30, we had.
About 600 votes, huh?
Yeah.
And why did you have to hand count?
So what they do is, if you run your ballots through machines, then the Secretary of State, I don't remember how many count, I think there's 10 counties that hand count, but then they just randomly pick 3 races, and for you to hand count them so that you know that the machine is counting correctly.
Excellent.
Yeah. And my machine's counting correctly.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
Everything was perfect.
And so did your hand count.
Yes. Well, the thing is, you can't let those hand counters see the results or the tape or anything, so they don't really know. But yeah, everything went really good. I was very, very happy. So, all right, I guess we'll sign away. You want to come sign the book?
Oh, yeah, we have that as an action item to adopt the canvas.
Did I, yep. Oh, yeah, because that's what I missed.
Yep. Okay. wanna wait till after we sign the big book or have that motion now? Okay. Do I hear a motion to adopt the votes as read?
I move to adopt the votes as read from the November 8th, 2022 federal general election.
I would second that.
Okay, any discussion on the votes to be canvassed? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
You gotta go too.
Thought I'd go third. So I could see what to do.
You sign your name on one of these lines.
So all three, okay, and so that's just how each of us takes a line and signs. Anything need to go by it or just on Taro? Okay. Okay,
And then this is.
oh, by my name?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you for those instructions. I appreciate
Sign
it.
underneath her? Sorry?
Wherever you want.
Well, how about underneath?
No, we can't.
No?
Not in my area.
Your area, show it to me, I'm gonna mess it up.
No. These are forever documents. These are forever and ever.
Booby trap.
Historical stuff.
There you go.
You don't know much about history, do you? Yeah? What was the name of Lewis and Clark?
I don't know too much about history.
Pulling my leg, are you?
That really felt good the last time I almost fell asleep.
Oh, you should have
I
called
don't
me
have this wool coat
earlier.
like Robert has.
No.
It's a nice wool coat. You'd think now
He
that
could have
he's.
brought one for his buddy, right?
Yeah. You'd think now that he's president, he could finagle a deal like that.
I don't know that you'd want brown, because it might get mixed up with his. Why don't you put your
I had
name
a
in?
gray
I'm still
one like
going
that.
with time card, so I need to-
Forever.
Okay.
And I mean.
You thought there'd be some
the
debate or
sleeves
something?
were worn out.
Oh.
I didn't wanna give.
You thought there'd be some
No,
debate
no.
for 45
It
minutes?
is nice looking,
I
very
don't know,
nice
I didn't,
looking.
I was hoping not.
It's hard to find a good wool coat.
I have one from Grizzly Foot, whatever, what's that Grizzly?
It's your certificate of election.
In
Oh.
Missoula,
Well, thank you.
where I just took my, yeah.
Have your name on it.
So I
frame
bought
it.
my Filson
I know
stuff
this
from
girl.
them
I know.
6 years ago, and my wool jacket, but you know, I'll bet it hung in there for 4
I'm jealous because
years.
you
It's just
sign
the
your
smell I
name
can't
like
get
people
out
can
of
read
it.
it.
Really?
Yeah.
Take it.
She does have beautiful
Can
handwriting.
you?
Yeah,
Do you
well,
that smell?
yeah.
On mine,
It's from writing in all these books.
Okay, I might try that, because I don't use it.
oh,
It
speaking of, I
smells.
gotta figure out how to do a DocuSign thing. The person finally tracked me down. I'm not sure it's supposed to DocuSign, but I think it might be Romans allowing. The only thing I could make out was an R and a Z on a signature.
That's good enough.
Good enough.
So I had a question about the marijuana tax. Does that go into the general fund for the county? Is that what this is? I didn't even know it was on the ballot until we got the ballots.
Oh,
So where does that 3% go?
yeah, and then it's a 3% of a something that we have to share it with the city of Superior and the incorporated town of Alberton too, so it's not the full percent. But anyway, that's small, just breaking that down. But yeah, it goes to the general fund and counties can use it how they need to. You can help pay the sheriff's office.
So what about St. Regis? Because they're the one that has the smoke shop. Are they would be paying that 3% too?
Yeah, I was only talking about the dissemination of the 3%
Oh.
fund. So St. Regis is not incorporated, so the way the state statute was set up is that the 3% is taxed, but then it doesn't just all go to the county, there's a piece of it, a percentage of it that goes to the incorporated town within the same county. A percentage of it goes to Alberton, a percentage of it goes to Superior, and the county gets whatever that percentage is, I can't remember what it is, but so St. Regis is not incorporated, so they don't get a slice of the 3% like Alberton and Superior do.
Okay. I kind of thought they were, because they had their own little tax out there,
They're not incorporated, that's
It's a resort tax.
oh, that's right, it is resort tax, and they don't have a city.
Yeah, that's what incorporated means.
Got it,
They're-
got it.
They don't have a mayor, they don't have a town council.
Yeah.
That's what
They have their own
incorporated.
sewer district board, you know.
Hard to keep track. All right, that's it for today, gentlemen and lady.
Over and out.
Over and out,
I think he has to call the gavel though, we're
Oh.
adjourned.
Yep, I'll just sit here and look at time cards and be boring, otherwise we're adjourned.